Yo, what's going on, guys? We are live. Backcratic like an acmatic. What does that even mean? I don't know. But we are back, and we are playing. We are starting our Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire Hardcore Nuzlocke. Yes, sir. Let me adjust the YouTube video. I think that's good. I look good. All right, I think we're good. All right. Yeah, we're gonna go and start. And I did a poll, and you guys said that you would be okay with me turning on trade evolution. So I did. So we'll see if we can take advantage of that. But yeah, let's go ahead and play this video. And yeah, we are ready to start. I got the level caps pulled up here. And yeah, this is my first ever Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire legit hardcore Nuzlocke.
But admittedly, it was pretty.
So let's go ahead and get started. Not entirely sure what to expect. Pokemon. Yes, that Pokemon's random, but that's just because it automatically randomizes it. I didn't really have much choice in it doing that. But I swear this is a legit file other than the fact that I turned on trade evolutions. That's literally all I did. Okay, we went fast off. Set. Let's change our frame. Go with this one. This one's kind of nice. All right. Actually, they saved. All right, let's go.
And let the next generation of runners take over. So, as 2015 rolled around, Punch-Out didn't have much activity. Sinister was retired, and Zallard was satisfied.
And we're gonna set it to 303 because that's what's up for me.
These were the only two runners with a shot at the single segment record. They were just a cut above the rest. But with them both being inactive, maybe there was room for a third runner to step up. Enter Weejoey.
Weejoey.
Later in his career, Weejoey would become a world record.
Forget to get my free potion.
Many popular NES games. But his first speed run was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. He began running the game in early 2015, and right away it was clear he was a natural.
Alright, I know you guys may or may not be shocked by my starter pick here, but I'm actually going to be picking Mudkip. Yeah, I'd be stupid not to pick Mudkip.
Weejoey began to make a push for Zallard.
Like, genuinely, Mudkip is the best starter objectively. I personally love Blaziken. Wait, oh, I forgot. I accidentally didn't name it. We're starting over. We're gonna start the game over. I didn't name Mudkip. That was a complete accident.
You have to find a way
Oops.
to battle your nerves and execute frame perfect punches over and over. And in the
oh, good thing I saved actually. Wow. I forgot I saved. Anyway. Yeah, let me do this again. This time I'll actually name Mudkip.
Are both pushed to their limits. Despite some struggles on Tyson, Weejoey took his time down to 1641. But he wasn't the
Alright, what are we gonna name Mudkip? We're gonna name you
That's right. By spring 2015, Sinister was ready to retire.
Machine Gun Kippy. That's what we're gonna name you. M Gun Kippy, bro. That's a great name.
And so they both compared Zallard's 1625.
Crack myself up, dude.
Ultimately, it was gonna all come down to Tyson. Both Sinister and Weejoey were capable of getting there on pace, but competing against Zallard's 240 was a tall order.
I did get my push. Okay.
Both players knew they would have
let's get to level 6 real quick. Row fight.
Who could close
well, I guess it doesn't really matter. It doesn't count as losing that as like if we lose to the rival here, so it doesn't matter. Excuse me.
Nope, not it. 16, 28, 0.25.
We got really bad luck. We still won. Let's go. I'm level 2 or 6, right? Okay.
This continued for months. Weejoey and
All right, we got our Pokeballs. Let's go ahead and get our first encounter.
Sometimes
we get a run of shoes.
But whether it was bad luck or
All right,
bad
first
execution,
encounter.
the run always died.
Bah! Oh, nice. We got through it, so
The
we can
best
actually get
pieces the
Pokeballs.
game has ever seen.
Yeah, we're gonna buy like 10.
Lost at the very end.
We get the Premier
Here's
Ball.
the thing.
All right, now we get a real first encounter. It's a Zigzagoon. I'll take it.
It's still possible to get a fast fight with it. A time in the 230s is doable, although there's little room for error. Sinister and Weejoey had to forget about the RNG. As long as they played well, they could have a chance at the record. But that was much easier said than done. On July 16th,
I mean, after
Sinister
Weejoey
had
bam
a
off, I was just gonna spell it wrong because it's funny.
beating 242.
Please tell me you have
Right
pickup.
on cue. 8 seconds.
Good, good. That's what we love to see.
But it didn't have to be.
All right, counter up here is Zigzagoon. That's Dupe's Claws.
It's alright.
Fujiana, take it.
Dude, that last delay was a killer. Got it. Got it. Oh my god, man. Got it by like 1 second.
Now that's how you fight Tyson. This was the first record in the game's history to feature an 8-second delay on Mike Tyson. Sinister nailed frame-perfect punches throughout the fight, and overcame bad luck along the way. It was the best.
Bro, you're not the main character, bruh. Like, you legit not the main character.
And despite
Like, who are you, bruh?
Sinister still finished ahead of him at 16:24. Even though he was back on top, Sinister didn't want to quit. He continued doing record attempts, hoping to get a run without the 8-second delay. Meanwhile, Weejoey was as motivated as ever, and a few weeks later, he was able to take his time into the 1630s. But as the months passed, the record stayed put at 16:24. That seemed to be the limit for Sinister and Weejoey. But what about Zallard? At this point, he hadn't run the game since his 1625
They changed it back, so I gotta
a year
get used to
ago.
that.
He was happy to let Sinister and Weejoey battle to take the record. However, in October 2015, Zallard signed up for a 3-way punch-out race in the annual Best of NES Marathon. He was going to be up against Sinister One and Weejoey, meaning he needed to shake the rust off and get back in practice. So, for the first time in 11 months, Zallard fired up a stream of single segments.
It's not gonna matter. He's gonna 8-second delay this.
What happened to freaking berry? I'll have berries, bruh. All of them.
Or not? Question marks? Okay.
I'm just checking to see if I got the pickup item. So if you see me randomly checking my party, that's why.
Tyson threw his 6th uppercut just as the clock ticked over to 1:30. It probably came out on the last frame possible, and Zallard was not expecting it.
Ah, so good.
However, the run wasn't quite dead. If you get up on a 9 count to fully refill your health, a knockdown costs about as much time as an 8-second delay. In other words, Zallard could still get a pretty fast time, but would it be fast enough?
I could probably do something with this, sadly. And I just got hit. What a stupid run, dude. 16:27. Okay.
It had taken
We just got a nugget?
attempts to
Dude.
nearly match Sinister and Weedle
Cracked. Pick up his crack, bruh.
over 6 months. If he didn't get knocked down, or had he not gotten blocked in Phase 3, or a myriad of other small changes across the run, this easily would have been the record. Zallard had to settle for a 1627 on his first day back. How could he possibly follow that up?
Alright. Here we go. Oh. Alright, soda. 58. 6-1.
Nice.
Uh-oh. It just got real. That's a split you're not supposed to gain time on. 4-8? This is so dead. This is the deadest speedrun I've ever seen. Oh my god, dude. This is doomed. This is doomed. This has no chance. Zero possibility of finishing. This is the deadest, dude. You can't get this luck. Tyson's 8-second delaying this. I will bet you all the money. I will bet you all of the money, Cash.
All of the cash money.
This is not gonna happen. This
An
cannot
Ultra
happen.
Ball? Dude, let's freaking go. Pick up OP.
This isn't even real, dude. Okay, like, you don't understand. This can't finish. It's impossible.
And what happened on Mike Tyson on the ultimate dream run ever of Punch-Out? Well, I'll let Zallard take it from here.
What? What? It's 102. I'd never got the 8-second delay in that first phase, so that meant I pretty much got past every luck barrier in the entire game, and it's just me versus Tyson. That's it. Like, all the nerves that I didn't have, they came back, like right here, right here.
Let's see if we get the ultra mega rare chance where it kills
I
those
remember
the
thinking,
Rolts.
well, this is the dead.
We
This
did
is
not.
where it dies. But this is. I feel so bad right now. So bad.
Let's go get our next encounter. And 6 goon. Scoops claws. I knew that was going to happen! I freaking knew that was gonna happen. I knew it.
This is one of the craziest runs in any
Oh, that's so
season.
freaking frustrating.
Like most
I didn't even think a crit would kill it.
To the last record.
It
had
didn't
more
look like it did
mistakes.
even
It
a
had
quarter of
more
his health.
It had more misses on the uppercuts,
Bro,
but it also had
seriously?
unbelievable luck. And
I
that was
freaking knew that was
enough
gonna happen.
to
I
make up for
freaking
the
practically
difference.
called it.
Sinister and Weejui had been left in the dust. Zallard was breaking new ground. With this one run, standards had changed, and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out entered a new era, the push for the sub-16. For years, it was a theoretical time, but more of a pipe dream than a rational expectation, much like the mythical 457 in Super Mario Bros. But now, Zallard's 1607 opened up new possibilities. Sub 16 was suddenly realistic, and that was enough to make Zallard commit to trying. The blueprint for this run was simple. There was no way Zallard was going to be ahead of the record going into Tyson. The 1607 got all the luck, and trying to compete with it would be a losing battle. But as long as his deficit was reasonable, Zallard could make it up with an insane Tyson fight at the end. You'd need the ultimate combination of luck and execution on Tyson. For starters, you need to get your first knockdown before 1 minute. That involves hitting all 9 frame-perfect punches in the first phase and not getting the 8-second delay. With any luck from here, Tyson throws 6 uppercuts in phase 2, and if you hit 5 of them, you'll knock Tyson down before he has a chance to throw any hooks. And from there, by hitting a few frame-perfects in phase 3, a time in the high 210s or low 220s is possible. That is 18 frame-perfect punches at the end of a world record paced run. These used to be unreasonable expectations, but this wasn't 2014 anymore. Tyson execution had gotten better, and if Zallard wanted to get a sub 16, that's what he needed to do. Within days, he was back to doing attempts, hoping just once he could clutch out the Tyson fight he'd need. On November 9th, he had one with potential. Although he bled a bit of time on Hippo and Soda, he was able to keep pace everywhere else. But after an unfortunate mistake on Macho, the deficit ballooned to 18 seconds. Zallard needed a 225 Tyson fight, and after a 144 second knockdown, it was clear that this was going to be close.
Oh my god, please.
Without the mistake on Macho, Zallard would have had a sub 16. Instead, he had to push onward. A couple weeks later, he had another similar one. This time, he needed a 220 Tyson. He got an incredible phase 1 pattern, but got blocked. After missing a couple too many frame perfects in phase 3, he had to settle for a 227.
Man, killing me, dude. 16-13.
A short while later, another familiar situation. Now he needed a 223 Tyson. And of course, Deja Vu headed into phase 3.
You gotta be... Why? Why? Just why?
Time and time again, Zallard just couldn't quite get the Tyson he needed. He was playing well, but not perfect. At this point, over a month had passed since his 1607, and Zallard wasn't able to beat it. But he wasn't the only one trying.
That's PB. It is a PB. Man, that was 1622, alright. In there, baby. Oh, PB, baby. PB, dude. That's a good run. 16-14, man. We are closing in, dude. I think I might have just PB'd. Alright, it's PB, dude.
Alright, I'll take it. Missed world record by 4 seconds, guys.
All of a sudden, Sinister and Weejoey had closed in. They were both within 5 seconds of Zallard's record. All 3 of these guys had been grinding heavily over the last month, and Zallard was the only one with nothing to show for it. Ultimately, they were all capable of getting the sub 16. It was a dead heat, and it was going to come down to whoever could clutch out an amazing Tyson fight at the end of a run first. But even though Weejoey and Sinister had mostly caught up, Zallard was just on another level.
Oh, baby. Come on. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. It's done, dude.
It had happened. Zallard had just gotten a 218 Tyson in a run. Just 2 years ago, this would have been the fastest recorded Tyson fight ever. This speedrun was the product of years of attempts from Punch-Out's best players. It started with Matt Turk's initial run, then Sinister's grind through the 16s, and finally Zallard's push to take it under 16 minutes. Punch-Out's ultimate barrier was broken. It wasn't a perfect run. Most notably, he got a hook on Soda, which cost about 10 seconds. But the 218 Tyson fight more than made up for it. Zallard was done. And seeing what he had accomplished, Weejui and Sinister decided to stop grinding as well. Everyone was satisfied with this incredible world record. The sub 16 was real. By 2016, most of the Punch-Out community was inactive. This is common once a landmark world record is set. People feel no need to even try beating it. So, for months, there was no movement on the leaderboard. However, that changed in late January 2016. For the first time in a year, somebody new entered the top 3.
Somebody call 911. Shorty fire burning on the dance floor. Whoa.
Behind Zallard's world record. This runner was me.
Andrew. Oh. I don't know why I thought he would say Andrew G. It's not even a Mario game.
I was absolutely invested in it.
Oh man.
They're some of my fondest speedrunning memories, and were instrumental in getting me into speedrunning as a whole. Sinister's 1627 was the first world record I ever watched live, and from there, I was hooked. I slowly began learning speedrun strategies for all 14 fights. By mid-2015, I was doing full game runs. While Weejui, Sinister, and Zallard were all battling for a sub 16, I remained in a distant 4th place with my 1642. But after Zallard's sub 16, I made it to the 1630s, then the 1620s, and finally, I managed to break through with a 1608. It was especially surreal to pass Sinister 1. He was the one I first watched with awe back in 2014. All of a sudden, I was a world record contender, and that felt really strange. The only remaining run I could beat was Zallard's 1557. But that was going to be an enormous challenge, and here's why. For starters,
Your mom?
it had a 41
No.
on King Hippo.
Clearly not because your mom.
90%
That
of
doesn't
the
even.
time, just from RNG, I'd lose time on that split. A 106 on Bull 1 was really good, as well as a 54 on Honda 2. Soda Popinski was a soft split, and I could gain time there. But after that, it was a gauntlet.
Actually, let's put Mudkip out front.
128 and 140 on Bull 2 and Dawn 2 were both excellent splits. There was time to save on Sandman and Macho, but not much, and on average I could expect a time loss. And on Tyson, I was up against a 218. That was faster than my best Tyson fight ever. I was practically guaranteed to lose time there. So, the goal was to keep it close into Soda, pick up about 10 seconds there, then try and preserve my lead as long as I could. And with King Hippo killing run after run early, that was not going to be easy. But I was determined to try. And so, I embarked on a quest for my own sub-16. For weeks, I streamed my attempts on Twitch, going nowhere as early game RNG stopped me. But eventually, I started to break through, first getting a 1607, then a 1603. Little by little, I was chipping away at my time. But what kept preventing greatness was Mike Tyson. Zallard's split was too tough to compare against. I was pretty reliably able to get fights in the 230s, but lower than that was extremely rare. Eventually, I caught on that my Tyson execution was holding me back, and started to focus on him. I worked on building that consistency, and over time, fights in the 220s started to become more common. As such,
Alright, counter.
they started to
If
grow.
this guy lets me
If I
move,
could get a run on
is
pace,
purple,
I
which
had
is
the
a
ability to get the type of Tyson I'd need. On
Is
March
suppose-
1st, 2016, I started my session with Tyson practice just like I always did. And on my first attempt, I recorded my fastest ever phase 1 knockdown.
I'm pretty much guaranteed Shroomish or Slack
The
also.
fight ended at a
Just give it to me.
223. My Tyson execution was on point today. Now, I just needed to get a run there. And roughly 2 hours later, this happened.
There we go.
It was everything I could have hoped for. I was ahead into Soda, saved 10 seconds, then got godlike Sandman and Macho luck to add to my lead. This was a ridiculous pace, with incredible RNG. And my nerves were out of control. My hands were literally shaking. But right there in the chat helping me calm down were the current and previous world record holders, Zallard and Sinister. They put any fears of losing the record aside to help give me encouragement.
Definitely gonna want to train up
Just
Shroomish
an
for
amazing
the gym.
display of sportsmanship. I did my best to gather myself and press start on Tyson. This was better than I could have ever imagined. I had clutched out a 224 after these first 13 fights. It wasn't quite as good as Allard's 218, but given the circumstances, I was more than happy. And right there cheering me on were Sinister and Zallard. Two guys I had idolized were celebrating me taking their world record.
That just sounds funny.
With a 15-second lead over second place, I felt pretty good. This run had outstanding luck and a solid Tyson at the end.
Okay, he has a
There
Poochie and
were very
a
few spots to gain time, and I had
Yeah, I'll
no
stick with my
intentions to try and lower it.
Dunsport.
So, I took a step back and played other games. But I loved Punch-Out and struggled to stop playing it for long. As it was, I didn't want to try and grind to beat my 1542. I felt it would be impossible without a miracle run. However, if I could find new ways to save time, then maybe beating it
I'm
would-
sensing hypocrisy here.
So, that spring, I went into the lab, searching for new strategies and time saves on all 14 fights. And with help from other community members, we were able to completely overhaul 2 fights. First up, Piston Honda 2. This has always been an incredible fight to watch, as you pummel Honda while he can't even throw a punch. However, there was one problem.
Oh, I just named my Shroomish Machete. I was trying to name it Macho, but then I realized it was a girl, so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll name it Machette. But no, I just realized it's spelled Machete.
Was a fight between 52 and
That's funny.
55 seconds, depending on refill and star luck. However, in early 2016, Zallard began messing with implementing max damage uppercuts on the fight. By carefully pressing up and start within a small window, you can throw special uppercuts that deal more damage and that Honda 2 cannot dodge. I struggled to hit these consistently, but by messing around one day, I figured out that doing a quick dodge beforehand provides a visual timing cue, making the punches much easier. So now, there was no need to wait for Honda's eyebrows, and the fight ranged from 45 to 51
Actually, I should be able to
seconds.
remember.
And the other fight was Don Flamenco 2. We ended up transforming him from a normal fight to the most random one in the entire game, even more than Hippo and Soda. On
No
the
way,
first
my
counter
game
of
just
the
froze.
fight,
Okay.
you get a star.
I'm gonna make a save state right now.
Every
I thought my
second
game like
counts.
legit just froze for a
All
second.
the rest of the
I was about to have a heart
counters, you
attack.
have a 1 in 16 random chance of getting a star.
I gotta remember to save more often than I
Why
have
Nintendo
been.
designed the fight this way, and frankly, it's pretty baffling. But getting extra stars can be enormously beneficial, since they deal massive damage to Dawn. Zallard worked out a phase 1 where you'd get 9 chances at the 1 in 16 random star. And from there, I helped develop a roadmap for the rest of the fight depending on how many stars you get and what health refill Dawn gets in phase 2. This unlocked times on Dawn 2 that were previously impossible. With 2 stars in the mid refill, you could get a time all the way down in the 120s. The problem is, getting this luck is extremely unlikely. Most of the time, you'd get 0 stars in phase 1, and end up in the 140s like usual. Now, this 1542 world record was quite optimized for the strategies used, and the new tech wasn't guaranteed to help. Honda 2 was now harder, and Dawn 2 was way more random. But there was clearly potential here to beat the 1542. I wasn't sure exactly how much time I could save, but if I got everything to line up, the record could go down by a lot. So, in May 2016, I got back to the world record grind. My goal time? Sub 1520. I didn't know if that was a realistic goal, but I wanted to at least try for it. And right away, things were not looking good. The random elements kept ending run after run. Hippo barely let anything through, Soda killed half that made it to him, and Dawn 2 was never giving me stars. They were teaming up so that on every run, at least one fighter gave me unwinnable luck. The new strategies didn't seem to be helping, but there was still one way I could beat the record. On May 24th, I got on a run that lost 18 seconds to Soda Popinski. This effectively killed it, but I decided to play it out, and entering Tyson, I had a 10-second deficit. I needed a miracle fight, and ultimately proceeded to get the first ever perfect Tyson in a run. That's hitting all 22 frame-perfect punches throughout the entire fight, in all 3 phases. Doing this on the uppercuts isn't too hard, but proceeding to then hit all 8 hooks is super tough. But with the pressure mostly off on a pace like this, I was able to get it, and lower the record to the 1530s. A few days later, I was in a similar spot. The first 13 fights had done me no favors, so I only had a 7-second lead compared to a 210 Tyson. I needed another miracle fight. And I somehow did it again. A 213, matching Matt Turk's IL record from 9 years prior. This time, it was a perfect fight other than one missed hook in phase 3. Clearly, I had stepped up my Tyson game a bit, but I was doing it with the pressure off. Neither of these runs were on a good pace, and the Tyson fights are the only reason they were records. If I wanted to reach my goal of sub 1520,
Okay, get another chance at Taylor
I
here.
had to execute on Tyson when the pressure was on. And a few weeks later, I'd get my chance. It started with a perfect 38 on King Hippo. After a solid next couple of splits, Soda gave me uppercuts, and I got a 53. I made it to Dawn 2 with a 17-second lead. And while he didn't give me the god luck, I got one random star and a good refill. After a decent Sandman and a great Macho, it ended up to a 21-second lead going into Tyson. This was an amazing run. Now, those 210s and 213s I had gotten were super rare. I could maybe pull it off 1 in 20 tries. Add in the pressure of a pace like this, and it wasn't looking likely. But I didn't need a perfect Tyson. If I could beat him around 220,
We're gonna deposit Taylor actually because you're weak to rock. I'm gonna use Whisper instead.
8-second delay to contend with, as well as nerves. No time to think. Here we go. I had to execute right now.
Really glad I didn't get Whisper as my encounter. That would have sucked really bad.
I didn't know how to feel. 232 is not a bad Tyson, but after a 56 phase 1, I was on pace for something amazing. It was still a world record, but not the one I was looking for. So, I kept playing. This was going to be a very hard run to get out ahead of. A 38 hippo and 53 soda meant I was pretty much always going to be behind. The obvious time save was Tyson. Even if the super low Tysons weren't realistic, I could still save a solid 10 seconds there with some regularity. But keeping pace with the rest of the splits would be brutal. Although there was one other place I could hope to save a bit of time. Every time I fought Dawn 2 in a run, it was like a lottery ticket. About 96% of the time I fought him, I'd get a fight in the 130s or above. Usually this resulted in a time loss against my 138. However, roughly 1 in every 25 fights, the stars would align, literally, and I'd gain big time. Getting 2 random stars plus a good refill meant I could finish Dawn off in the 120s. And that had massive implications on the run. It could turn a bad pace into a good pace. It could turn a great pace into an amazing pace. A good Dawn 2 is so rare that you can go weeks without seeing it. But whenever Dawn 2 decides you win the lottery, your run is suddenly thrust into serious territory. And that's exactly what happened on June 22nd. Dawn 2 gave me a 124, approximately 1 in 50 luck. And all of a sudden, I was ahead of my splits with 3 fights to go. This was a golden opportunity. A 7-second lead, knowing I had time to save on Tyson at the end. I just had to avoid a catastrophe. Oh, bad refill on Sandman, there's 10 seconds gone. Ah, bad delay, there goes another 5. Ugh, bad macho pattern, another 10 gone. And a knockdown. The run is over. This is what the game does. It'll give you false hope with a miracle Dawn 2, but you're far from out of the woods. Sandman and Macho can team up to immediately kill your run, and there's nothing you can do about it. By this point, I was starting to get pretty frustrated. I'd been grinding every day for over a month, and although my goal was sub 1520, I hadn't even gotten sub 1530. I realized that part of it was a mental battle. I was going up against my 1531, which had an amazing early game to make me always in the red. So, I decided to run against my 1534 splits again, which were much friendlier before Tyson. But even still, although I could get out to a lead, it always came crashing down somewhere. This continued for weeks, and I began to wonder if sub 1520 wasn't realistic. The type of luck I needed, on top of an amazing Tyson at the end, might have been too much to ask. I kept doing runs, but they always died somewhere. I couldn't get everything to line up. The sub 1520 just wasn't a feasible goal. It would take a near perfect run, and the game just doesn't let you finish runs like that.
It'd be easier to grind in the forest.
So that I could get away with a suboptimal Dawn 2 here. A time in the 130s would be fantastic, but even something in the 140s could be acceptable with a lead this big. I couldn't believe it. On the best pace of my life, I had gotten the 1 in 50 Dawn 2 luck. This run was approaching once in a lifetime territory, but I still had 3 more fights to go. I pressed start on Mr. Sandman, waiting for this perfect luck to come to an end. More perfect luck. I felt like I was dreaming. The good refill and the short delay, meaning another 6-second time gain. Time for Super Macho Man. Perfect luck again. This was impossible. Punch-Out doesn't let this happen. I now had an incomprehensible 36-second lead. A typical good run was a low 13 going into Tyson. Only once before had I had a sub 13, and it was a 12:59. This run was a 12:45 going into Mike Tyson. This would likely be the only chance I'd ever get at a pace like this. I was about to do the most important Tyson fight of my speedrunning career. I knew the odds of getting a super good fight were minuscule, but I was really hoping I could avoid a disaster. If I got the 8-second delay and missed punches, the fight might go to the 240s or worse. I had one shot to get this. It was now or never.
Okay, I'm not gonna be fighting any sea dots anymore. It's too risky.
It felt amazing. This Tyson was far from perfect, but on this run, I was thrilled. I'd only missed one uppercut, but unfortunately I missed it late rather than early, a 1-frame mistake that cost 10 seconds. I'll tell you though, I literally did not care. A 227 under this type of pressure was easily good enough, and it led to a remarkable final time of 15:12. I couldn't believe I'd set this record, and neither could most of the community. It felt like a category-killing world record. The luck was just too good, and a great Tyson on the end solidified it. I wasn't gonna beat this run. I was done with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for good.
Is that why there's still like a million?
Okay, hysterics aside, let's talk about the 15:12 rationally. This run wasn't called unbeatable because of my execution. All in all, I did pretty well given the circumstances, knowing I might never get an opportunity like this again. I had to hit numerous frame-perfect punches while battling crazy nerves. But technically
Crazy
speaking,
nerds?
my older records like the 15:34 and 15:38 had better execution overall. No, the 15:12 was insane because of the RNG. Here's what I mean. On King Hippo, I got just one block, which is in roughly the 90th percentile of luck. Bald Bull 1 gave me the literal best pattern he could, in the 99th percentile. Honda 2 gave me the good refill and I played fairly well. Soda Popinski did 3 nearly instant uppercuts, in the 95th percentile. Dawn 2, we already know he gave me the 1 in 50 God pattern. Mr. Sandman, we got the good refill and short delay, with solid execution. And Macho, literally the best luck at every random event. Finally, at the end of all that, Mike Tyson could have done the 8-second delay to kill it, but he didn't. He too gave me good luck. Virtually every fight gave me perfect or near perfect luck. The result was this super statistically improbable world record. In just 1 year, thanks to a combined effort from Sinister, Zallard, and myself, the world record had gone from 1625 to 1512. I was now 42 seconds ahead of second place. There was nothing more for me to do. I wasn't beating this record. So, I moved on. As the months passed in 2017, more players got sub-16s, but nobody was really approaching the 1512. Meanwhile, I was busy working on the Mike Tyson individual fight record. I ended up getting it and lowering it a few times, but it also had a side effect of building my overall Tyson consistency. I had always been able to get low times, but now I was starting to see them a bit more regularly. More like 10% of the time rather than 5%. It made me look at my 227 from the world record a bit differently. It wasn't bad by any means, but I was starting to see a realistic 10 to 15 seconds to save there. And if I could save that much time in one fight, maybe the 1512 wasn't so unbeatable. By 2018, I hadn't grinded single segment in a year and a half, but the possible Tyson time save was enough to intrigue me. So, I got back to doing attempts. If there was any hope of beating the 1512, I had to get a crazy Tyson fight. There is no way I was going to get out ahead of these splits. I know I've said that before about earlier runs, but for real this time, I had no chance of being ahead after the first 13. It may have been only about a 10% chance on Tyson, but it was the only way this was going to happen. I began doing runs and immediately it was rough. The worst offender was Dawn 2. That fight was pretty much a guaranteed 15-second time loss. And on the rare exceptions that he gave something passable, someone else always stepped up to kill it. This continued for months, and typically the culprit was Dawn 2. But one good sign was that my Tyson game had definitely improved. And even if they weren't records, I was getting some really fast runs.
What a run, oh my god, 15-17.
The real test was going to be fighting Tyson when the record was within reach. And thanks to Dawn 2 and the rest, that was never happening. Hippo killed most runs, Soda took care of some, and Dawn 2 was the insurance. But finally, on April 7th, I managed to only lose 13 seconds to Dawn 2 on a run tied with the record. That was actually a pretty good fight. And after I matched my Sandman and Macho splits, my deficit was only 12.5 seconds going into Tyson. Believe it or not, this was my second best pace ever other than the 1512. I still needed a 2:14. But luck and execution were both on my side.
Yes! I just beat the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out world record. I don't believe it. We did it, man!
I was not expecting to beat the 1512. That was the power of a good Tyson fight. This run still had great luck from start to finish. In fact, it was virtually identical, except it didn't get the godlike Dawn 2. But since it's a 1 in 50 pattern, I couldn't be too disappointed. After nearly 1,000 attempts over a few months, and run after run dying to luck, I finally had a new world record to show for it. For months after this, I continued trying to lower the time. I had 3 runs make it to Tyson ahead of the 1510. On the first 2, I got the 8-second delay to kill it. And on the third one, I got the luck, but my execution wasn't there.
I hate...
As I've said before, getting it all to line up is nearly impossible. I could get a good Tyson fight, but having to do it on a pace that you might not see again for months it becomes so much harder. I was happy with my 15-10 and had a comfortable lead, so I stepped aside once more and stopped running the game. However, my break would come to a sudden end the following year, when completely out of nowhere, Punch-Out's greatest discovery ever was made. King Hippo had been the bane of our existence for years. He was about to be made completely irrelevant. This is the Hippo Minippo. Punch-Out is super random, and naturally players had long wondered if you could somehow control the RNG, but it seemed unlikely. The game looks at two memory addresses to determine each random event. One tracks frames elapsed since power on, and one tracks all inputs since power on. There was no way humans could control that. But in 2019, the game's 5th place runner, Lukendor158, and his brother, ZocSox, began looking into it more. They took a look at the first mouth open on King Hippo, which is controlled by RNG. They found that Punch-Out actually has a frame rule system, just like Super Mario Bros. Rather than 21 frames, it's an 8-frame system. So, as long as you push start within an 8-frame window, you'll arrive at the first open on the same frame every time. That solves one memory address, but what about the one tracking all your inputs? Well, every frame a button is pressed, it adds a corresponding value to the memory, which is stored in binary. However, Hippo's first open is strictly determined by the 2 rightmost bits, which are in turn determined by how many frames you've pressed right or down. So, if you don't press down or right at all until King Hippo, you can control what the memory value is. By then pressing start in the corresponding 8-frame window, you'll arrive on the correct frame with the correct memory address, and King Hippo will always open his mouth. The Hippo Minippo was born. Later, Lukendor and ZocSox were able to extrapolate this to Hippo's 3rd and 4th punches as long as you cancel the 2nd one. When the dust settled, King Hippo had become a non-random fight. You had to start a timer upon powering up the game, then press start in an 8-frame window, then carefully fight him to get the 2nd and 3rd opens. It was a difficult strategy, but if done correctly, you would always get either a 40 or 41 on King Hippo. It probably goes without saying, but this was enormous. We used to reset 80% of our runs to Hippo. Now, we'd make it past him 80% of the time, and always with a fast fight. We'd now have so many more chances at Soda, Dawn 2, and the rest. The world record was already down to 15-10, but with the Hippo Minippo, a sub 15 was starting to seem realistic. Just a few years ago, sub 16 was thought to be the ultimate barrier for Punch-Out. Now, 14 5x was the endgame. Around this time, I enlisted the help of one of my viewers, I Am the Dinosaur. He built an archive into my split spreadsheet, so I could keep track of every split of every run that I performed. This was great data to figure out my average fight times, my consistency on certain fights, and my overall luck. Dinosaur also helped me with something else. We plotted all my runs, comparing their paces and seeing how far they made it. Before the Hippo Minippo, few runs made it past the early game, but with RNG manipulation in effect, it was a different story. For the first few weeks, I had many runs go deep, but none faster than the 15-10. Let's take a look at this run on July 22nd. We were off to a great start. Thanks to the Hippo Minippo and a small strategy change on Honda 2, I had a 4-second lead going into Soda. You can see that this is one of my fastest paces ever. And right on cue, Soda threw a hook. It hurt, but a world record was still within reach. But after Dawn 2 gave me a 139, and Sandman and Macho didn't help much, my chance was all but over. Not only did I need a perfect Tyson, I needed a fast perfect fight. Oh my god, so so fast. It's basically dead. I mean, I would need something amazing. Oh my god! Oh my god! Somehow, some way, it was a new world record. This was a very unorthodox way of getting there, but in the end I had brought it back. It was a small improvement and wasn't what I was ultimately looking for, but it showed the power of HippoManippo. It took just a couple of weeks to set a new record. Still, I wanted to go faster. I continued for a few weeks, and then on August 6th, I managed to get a 49 on Soda in a run. 3 instant uppercuts. It turned a mediocre pace into a great one. Heading into Dawn 2, I was praying I'd at least get something. And I did. 2 stars plus the mid refill. I was starting to break new ground with this pace. My fastest run ever. The next step was to make it past Sandman. Uh-oh. This was getting ridiculous. I had to hold it together. Next up, Super Macho Man. Well, that's gonna hurt. I don't really know where his guard is here. I made like a 2-second mistake there. Maybe 1 second mistake. The rest of that was on Macho. Back to reality. But I still had a chance on Tyson if I could get a really good fight. Failed. Sorry, that was so loud. I hit my.
I was like, what in the world?
Fell off. Run over. I hit my punches and got the 8-second delay. It seemed like a crazy pace, but it was just a tease. The game took it away in an instant. Nothing I could do about it. But thankfully, the very next day, I'd get another chance. Let's go. He coughed up another good fight. 124 this time. I had to preserve an 18-second lead with 3 fights to go. Mr. Sandman gave the good refill, but he also gave the long delay, meaning I broke even. Macho gave me kind of sketchy luck, but it was still good enough for a sub 1 minute fight. I was able to take a 13-second lead into Mike Tyson. This was my best pace ever since the 15-12. I was still 4 seconds behind that run, but I had the chance for a massive record. If I could avoid the 8-second delay and hit all my punches, then sub 15 was on the table here. I had to calm my nerves down and try to handle the frame perfects. My heart rate's not even that high, man. I'm just shaking. Alright, do my best. Wow, that pattern. That was a phase 3 uppercut pattern. It's too fast, man. I can't do the buffer. God, 15 minutes flat. Oh my god. Oh my god. So close. Half
Alright, we got our
second
team
from
grinded up.
15. This was an awesome record. Nearly a 10-second improvement. I missed just 1 punch on Tyson. Overall, I was happy with my execution under pressure. Especially because of Dawn 2, this would be a tough run to top. However, thanks to the Hippo Manippo, I wasn't the only one going for the record.
Yes, alright. That's a sick PB right there. What is that? 15-16. Let's go, dude. Let's go.
Zallard was back, and now that he had the Hippo Manippo, he was able to demolish his PB. With just one run, he cut my lead in half, and he was a serious record contender. Залlard's 15-16 didn't get the crazy Dawn 2 luck that I had, and his Tyson
Alright, let me look
was
up
slower,
her team.
but other than that, we had very similar runs. He was also able to take advantage of a new strategy I recently discovered on Soda. By taking an intentional knockdown, he always does an instant.
Alright, so our team is Geodude and Nose Pass. I can take off the Geodude with Mudkip, and then if things get dicey with Nose Pass, we can figure it out from there.
On my tail and a new Soda strategy to help, I pushed onward for the sub 15. A couple weeks later, I had one with potential. It was one of my fastest runs ever into Dawn 2. I had a 4-second lead. Unfortunately, Don wasn't playing nice, and he gave me a 140, pushing me well behind the record. But after a good Sandman and Macho, there was still
nice. All right, we're good.
Wow. Okay. Jeez. What?
I needed a 207 to get the sub 15. A really good fight, but I had done it before, and it got off to a good start. A perfect phase 1 and phase 2. It was crunch time. If I could now hit all 8 hooks, then this would be the sub 15.
Okay, next level cap is level 18. So let's go ahead and deposit Poochyena
Couldn't do it, man.
and get out Talo, because
I can't just
Poochyena is obviously not going to be used during brawling. That would be stupid.
I can't do it.
Hitting 22 frame perfects under world record pressure
That would not be
is
smart.
not easy. I was 3 hooks away and couldn't quite hold it together.
I guess you could say instantly you were hooked.
He was destroying everything in sight.
I'm sorry.
With the lead, and the run would be dead moments later every time. He was never giving me stars and always giving bad refills. This continued for a couple months. And then, that October, I had a run going that looked like nothing special, but it took a
It looked like a nothing burger. Fun to say nothing burger because that's fun to say.
Come on, dude.
Just like that, it was over. Tyson gave a horrible pattern and I missed too many punches. If it's not obvious yet, this fight is so brutal. The hardest part of the run, by far, right at the very end.
Okay, I just want to make sure, yeah, Quick Attack is stronger than Peg.
I had less time to play in late 2019, and a few months passed without anything significant. However, in February 2020, we had a serious development. I'd gotten a 128 Dawn 2 after already being on a great run, and after a perfect Sandman, I found myself 7 seconds ahead. It was my best pace
get in
ever
the door.
at this point. 2 fights to go. I moved on to Macho. The fight started as normal, and I was able to successfully sneak in 2 punches after.
I don't have to call him like an emerald.
Although I didn't get a random star. The most important part now, I needed to get the good pattern. And I did. That meant a 28-second knockdown with 1 star in reserve. In phase 2, I was hoping he'd stand still so I could get stars, since I didn't get the random one earlier, but he backed up. So, instead of hitting him with an uppercut after his spins, I had to do something a bit slower. Phase 3 was now the inverse. I wanted him to back up right away since I had loaded up on stars, but he just stood still. 2 more seconds down the drain. In the end, I got a 57-second fight. Not great, but it was far from a bad time.
It was unnecessarily risky. I don't know, I'm stupid.
Going into Mike Tyson. This was the first time I had a lead over my 15-12 this late in the run. It was by far my best shot ever at a sub 15. Tyson started, and almost right away, I missed a frame perfect. That was okay as long as I didn't miss any more. And for the rest of phase 1, I was able to hold it together and avoid the 8-second delay. A 56 phase 1, a very good start. However, in phase 2, he started delaying everywhere. It messed with my timing, but I managed to still hit my punches and knock him down by 132. I'd made it. Phase 3 on sub 15 pace.
Milk. Milk. Okay, I couldn't remember if we were allowed to fight her.
Sinister had set the first sub 17. Zallard had set the first sub 16. And now, I had set the first sub 15. It was my best chance ever to get it, and I was super happy I'd clutched out Tyson when I needed it. I'd done nearly 1,000 attempts since the Hippo Manippo's discovery. It was mostly a brutal RNG grind, with some heartbreaking deep runs mixed in. But at long last, the sub 15 was finally real. Even though I was thrilled with the run, I was still interested to see if I could take it lower. And right after this, the pandemic hit, and I had a lot of free time on my hands. So, I started grinding attempts harder than ever.
So freaking annoying to talk to him.
The game
like legit.
Absolutely destroyed me.
Here we get one of the best items in the game. Not the old rod.
Nearly every day, and I just could not get it.
This item, the silk scarf, is broken. To have this early on.
Take a good pace and destroy it in an instant. Eventually, this turned into
seriously though, we can't get an encounter here.
I poured hundreds of hours in this single segment after my 1455, and I still couldn't set a new record. It was mostly due to luck, but I'd had my share of chokes too.
Oh, it's a tentacle. Okay. I mean, that's fine too, I guess.
Play a bit more, I could finally get it.
Definitely won't complain.
2 years after my first sub 15, the world record remained the same. Perhaps out of sheer stubbornness, I kept trying. On April 6th, I had a really nice run going into Dawn 2. And just like he'd done nearly every time in the past 2 years, Dawn gave me nothing.
Nice!
Pushing the run back into mediocrity. However, Sandman and Macho played nice, with a 219 and 53. This run was like several I'd had.
We're definitely going to be using
I had a chance,
Tentacle over
only if I could get an
Wismer.
Tyson. You can see from my PB% column, developed by ZocSox, that I had an estimated 4.6% chance of getting a new record. Here we go. But it went well. I got no 8-second delay and hit all my punches in phase 1 for a 55-second knockdown. Phase 2 went just as well. I got him down at 129. At this point, this was a guaranteed record, as long as I could hit all 8 hooks in phase 3. But I fell for the oldest trick in the book. I dodged too early. Tyson's hook was frames away from hitting me. I frantically hit dodge again, praying that Mac would move out of the way in time. And I just cleared it, somehow even managing to land the frame perfect too. After surviving.
Okay, I'm confused. I could have swore you could also get Magikarp. What's going on?
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. 2 years of heavy grinding, all for a quarter of a second.
I was so confused for a second. I was like, what?
This was the happiest I'd felt after a record in years. I knew the work that had gone into this, and I knew how well I'd played on Tyson. The final time wasn't much lower, but I couldn't care less. 26 months later,
I knew what they were doing, making the level cap level 18 so that you can't freaking get Gyarados beforehand.
Really seemed to run into a wall at 1455. It could take months or years to lower it again. I didn't want to repeat the same nearly fruitless grind. On the other hand, there were developments from other runners. 8-Bit Gamer had rapidly improved, and a few days after my new record, he moved into second place with a 1514. 8-Bit had developed some nice Tyson consistency, and I knew that given the right run, he did have potential to break my record.
Oh crap.
But I still had a 19
or a
second
trainer
lead,
battle.
and beyond him, there really wasn't much movement. So I felt pretty safe, at least for the time being. Throughout the rest of 2022 and into 2023, I didn't play a single segment. And all the while, the record remained the same. I maintained a big lead over second place. Nobody else had even broken my 1512 from back in 2016. That time was nearly 7 years old now. All these guys easily had the potential to do it, but they hadn't devoted the time to grind for the RNG needed, and also hadn't capitalized on Tyson when they had the chance. So, with a 19-second lead over second place and a solid world record, I was feeling pretty good about myself.
Nice.
Let's go.
So I'm obviously gonna deposit Zigzagoon, but I'm gonna keep him in the party just for now. Just because of pickup.
Holy cow, dude. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy cow. Oh my god, dude. Are you kidding me?
This was the closest anyone had been since I got the world record. K3, pretty much out of nowhere, had become a force to be reckoned with. Getting a perfect fight at the end of a run is no joke, and he had just done it to catapult himself into second place. Now, he was just 8 seconds from the record. Had he not gotten a bad pattern on Super Macho Man, K3 would have beaten me, and he had no intention of stopping now. I had never seriously felt a threat to my record in the past 7 years. That had just changed. And as much as I liked K3, I also wanted to try and hang on to the top spot. I had tried to lower the record earlier in the year, but I ended up coming short once again after hundreds of attempts. For whatever reason, 1455 just seemed to be my limit. But with K3 getting close, I had to push past it. So, as K3 played alongside me, I set out on my most intense grind yet. As usual, I struggled to get anything going. I was able to get a couple to Tyson on pace, but each time, I either got bad luck or made a mistake. I wasn't getting good Tysons like I used to. Meanwhile, K3 had just finished off his PB with a 207. I felt like I had fallen off.
You fell off.
Fights anymore. Beyond that, the red zone was also killing a ton of runs. That was a nickname we gave to 3 consecutive fights: Soda, Bowl 2, and Dawn 2. You already know about Soda and Dawn 2, but Bowl 2 has random misdirected gut punches that have a 25% chance of going through. If you land 3 of them, you get an excellent fight. If none of them go through, it's a huge time swing. Overall, it's easy to get good runs to the red zone. It's not easy to make it through alive. Between the red zone and Tyson,
Anyway, let's go get the experience share.
I had done hundreds of attempts since K3's 15.
So we can get the experience share.
And I had made no progress. Still, I held out hope that maybe it was just a funk I could work through. And on June 11th, I had a chance to do just that. Alright, dude. I did it right. wasn't much, but I'd finally shown I could still get a good Tyson. And although the record was no harder for K3 to beat, at least it wasn't a 1455 anymore. I had hopefully passed that mental hurdle. These splits were pretty balanced, except for one point in the middle. I got an incredible 48 on Soda, followed by an awful 134 on Bowl 2. I decided that for future runs, just to make it easier, I'd pretend my Soda split was a 54 and my Bowl 2 split was a 128. I knew my job was far from over. K3 was still going, and I knew what he could do on Tyson. But I had improved the record once. Surely, with enough time, I could improve it again, right? Well, I kept getting these heartbreaking runs. I'd make it to Tyson on pace, and whether it was my fault or his, the run would always die there. I just couldn't do it. I was getting chances, but I wasn't capitalizing. Meanwhile, another runner was starting to close in. This is J-Durg. Over the course of May 2023, he was rapidly lowering his PB through the 1520s, and the big payoff came in June, when he blew his old runs out of the water.
Yeah! Top 3, baby!
So now, there were 2 runners with a 15-0x. Both were within 11 seconds of the record, and both were actively trying to get it. I committed to the grind even harder. It was a mad dash to beat the 1454. I was desperate for a breakthrough. And finally, on June 28th, I had this run.
Oh crap, I accidentally just forgot quick tech. I wasn't paying attention. I mean, I was, but like...
I ended up missing the record by
Oops.
2 seconds. But at least it wasn't my fault this time. I had hit my punches on Tyson and just gotten unlucky.
I'll keep that in mind though. If I'm gonna learn a move, I need to slow the game
My
down.
best ever by far. But it didn't matter with Tyson's 8-second delay.
Need to keep that in mind.
And that would become a trend over the next few days. Yup, as always. But finally, on July 8th, Tyson gave it up. I scored a 54 first knockdown and 128 second knockdown. And once again, I had to hit all 8. Finally, a substantial improvement. For the first time in over 3 years, I lowered the record by more than a split second. And it was a fairly innocent looking run, up until the very end. This run was carried pretty hard by the last 2 splits. It was nothing special through Sandman, but a 51 Macho and 206 Tyson were incredible fights. At long last, I had a bit more breathing room. The next stop from here was getting a sub 1450, a 14-4x. To get that, I'd need a run around 1240 or less after Macho, which I'd done a handful of times before, then execute a perfect Tyson. In other words, get better luck, execute the first 13 well, then clutch out a great Tyson when the stakes are even higher. I didn't know how long it would take to do this. But then, just 4 days later, I did this. It's over. That was it. 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 Ooh, that hurts. That hurts. I threw it away. I'd gotten no 8-second delay, but punched probably 1 frame too late in phase 2. With no mistakes, this fight could have matched my 206. A huge missed opportunity. I was getting in my head on paces like this. When I could see that I had a massive lead, I tensed up and tended to miss frame perfects. So, I decided that going forward, whenever I knew I had a good run going past Dawn 2, I'd stop looking at my splits. Even if I knew it was a fast pace, not knowing what it was exactly tended to calm my nerves a bit. Now, I had to get another good run past Dawn 2, and by some miracle, that only took a few days. Now we're cooking. With 3 incredible red zone fights in a row, I knew this was an amazing pace. But no need to dwell on that. I closed my splits. My good luck continued on Mr. Sandman, as I got the good refill and the short delay. But Macho was a bit slower. He randomly blocked my face punches in phase 1, then backed up in phase 2 when I had no stars. I ended with a decent but not great 59. At this point, I knew I was ahead of the record, but wasn't sure exactly what Tyson fight I needed. I figured it had to be perfect, and probably something like 211 or less. I dialed in on Tyson, and managed a perfect phase 1. Phase 2 also went well, and I had him down at 132. I needed 1 more perfect phase. Hit 8. Hit 8. I think I need 8. But had I known my pace, I would have seen that I actually had an 8-second lead. I only needed a 214 on Tyson. Hitting all 8 here would put me well ahead of that. But I was ignorant to this. In my mind, I needed to hit all 8 right now. What did I get? 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 Let's go! Oh my god, dude. This one felt really good. Despite being nearly tied with my best pace ever into Tyson, I still executed a perfect fight, and the result was the world's first sub 1450. Now, it wasn't all perfect. My Bull 1 fight got pretty bad luck, and my Macho fight wasn't too fast either. And although I got no 8-second delay, Tyson did give several other short delays. But all in all, I didn't care. This was a record I'd been looking for years. I had regained a 15-second lead over second place. It felt really good about where the record was at. The only way to beat this time would be to get another perfect fight on a run close to or ahead of my pace into Tyson. And given that my fastest pace ever was a 12:37, that didn't seem too likely. So, although I kept doing attempts to lower it, I wasn't expecting too much. But I also wasn't the only one playing.
One punch at a time. Let's go. No, that's too much, dude. That's double switchback, dude.
K3 had just managed the best pace ever into Tyson by over 4.5 seconds. The fight itself did not go well. K3 got bad luck, missed too many punches, and got knocked down. But just being in this situation was remarkable. Across all my thousands of runs, I'd never gotten anything close to this going into Tyson. I'd had numerous upper 1230s, but never below 1237. This 1233 didn't get off to a crazy start, but it took off in the World Circuit. He had 3 excellent fights in the red zone, then followed it up with essentially perfect Sandman and Macho luck. And all the while, K3 never made a mistake. He saw what pace was developing, but was still able to lock it down until Tyson. The truth is, while I had had more overall chances at the world record, K3 had the very fastest ones. Back in September 2022, K3 had a 12:48 into Tyson, with a 19-second mistake on Honda 2. This could have been a 12:29. Again, my best ever was a 12:37. So, even though I held the top spot, I did not feel safe. K3 was an excellent player, and he could demolish his 15:03 at a moment's notice. I kept going, and the next few weeks were pretty slow. The attempts were really adding up, and I wasn't sure how much further I wanted to go. I was just looking for one more run on a fast pace where I could knock out a perfect Tyson. And finally, on August 21st, I'd get that chance. This was an extremely balanced run. Throughout the entire world circuit, every fight gave me very good but not perfect luck. I didn't gain or lose too much time anywhere. At the end of Macho, I had a 12:39, and I needed to gain 2 seconds over my 2:10 Tyson. World record. World record! This was just a very clean and steady run. No split stood out as being incredible. It was just a great run from start to finish. Compared to what we've seen over the past 10 years, it's almost an anticlimactic record to end on. But 1446 is where the world record stands today. I never could have imagined the journey I'd go on when I first got the record in 2016. The remarkable 1512, the discovery of Hippo Manippo, Dawn 2 crushing my dreams, the sub 15, and the rise of some amazing competitors. All these factors combined to take the record to where it is today. That and thousands of attempts. From the days of Matt Turk, through Sinister One's dominance, through Zallard's world record battles, and through my own reign with the record, Punch-Out has an incredible world record story. And I can't wait to see where it goes and who takes it there in the future. This has been the history of the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out world record. Thanks for watching.
Alright, so this team is Machop and Makuhita. They both only have fighting moves. Although Makuhita does have knockoff, which is a dark type move, but that shouldn't be a problem. Oh.
Super Mario 64, one of the most iconic speedruns of all time. Top level runs are beautiful. There's incredible movement, bizarre glitches, and awesome tricks. It all adds up to a super popular speedrun, giving Mario 64 the impressive legacy it has. But I've got a secret to share. All the gameplay you've just seen was performed with a blindfold on. This might sound too insane to be
Bag is full, really?
but for the past several years, players have been trying to speedrun Super Mario 64 without looking at the screen. How is this possible? How do you take a three-dimensional game and not only play it with your eyes closed, but practically make it look easy? Let's take a journey inside the minds of some of speedrunning's most impressive players. Welcome to the world of blindfolded Mario 64. And now a word from this video's sponsor, Rocket Money. I don't know about you, but I'm subscribed to a number of streaming services. I try to switch between them, subscribing for a while before moving to other ones. Only problem, I forget to cancel and end up paying for a service I'm not using. This is where Rocket Money can help. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I think Rocket Money is great for keeping track of your subscriptions. They identify recurring charges and cancel unwanted subscriptions for you. But they're also great for setting budgets. They can automatically monitor your spending by category and notify you when you've exceeded your limits. Rocket Money has helped save its customers an average of $740 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Join today by going to rocketmoney.com/summoningsalt, or by clicking on the link in the description to get started for free. You can unlock more features with a premium membership, but you can start off for free, so might as well try it and help out my channel. That's rocketmoney.com/summoningsalt. Blindfolded speedruns aren't a new concept. For years, blindfolded runs have been a staple at Games Done Quick events, and runners have even grinded at home to optimize blindfolded world records. But those were usually for simpler games. Compare that to Mario 64, with its 3D gameplay and wide open levels. Getting consistency with this seemed out of the question, and for many years, nobody bothered trying. But then, we arrive in 2017, when the main character of our story comes onto the scene. Meet Bubsya.
Me, oh.
Bubsya had seen players like RunnerGuy2489 and 360Chrism play blindfolded 3D games before, and it inspired him to see what he could do in Super Mario 64. Bubsya started by figuring out a few basic stars blindfolded. From there, he expanded to the rest of the game. He slowly built up his skills throughout 2017. And finally, by October, he was ready to try for the first full game completion of blindfolded Super Mario 64. Here's how he did it. First off, this was a 16-star run of the game. Collecting at least 70 stars is the intended glitchless route, but that was not going to happen with a blindfold on. Instead, Bubsya performed a popular speedrunning route. Collect 16 of the easiest stars, then tackle a couple glitches to skip to the last stage. That was much more manageable than going for 70 stars. Right from Bubsya's first inputs, you can see his general strategy. He ran forward until he heard Mario hit the wall, then turned right and kept going. It was slow, but these inputs were hard to mess up, and he eventually made it to the cutscene. In Bob-omb Battlefield, Bubsya worked on getting to the top of the mountain for the first star. He used the camera angles to his advantage. He'd run forward till he hit an object, then carefully adjusted the camera and kept moving forward. This normalized his movement and lined him up so he'd always end up running to the same place every time. After gradually inching his way up the slope, he got to use audio techniques on the boss. He backflipped to pick him up, then counted the audio of Mario's footsteps to know when he was in the middle. This lined him up so he was perfectly underneath the star when it spawned. Bubsya ended up collecting 3 stars in Bob-omb Battlefield, and they all followed the same idea. Very simple and safe setups to reliably work his way through the map. He then headed to Whomp's Fortress, where he ultimately picked up 5 more stars. He used a plethora of strategies to get these, slowly backflipping up the long ramp, running from wall to wall, and even using a bit of muscle memory. His setups were so normalized that whenever something went slightly off script, he usually couldn't recover and either died or restarted. This happened 9 times throughout Whomp's Fortress. Bubsya continued through the game, slowly but surely collecting stars.
So we probably want to lead with MYAAA or with Dustox just so we can't set up bulk ups and like up his defense.
None were harder than the
I think that's our best bet.
He needed inside-out knowledge of the level to ensure he could platform without looking. He had a clever strategy for the Bowser fight itself.
Can he status me in any way? No, the only way he can quote-unquote status me is through lowering my accuracy. That's
you'll collide with the bomb and skip having to somehow aim a Bowser throw without being able to see. After an hour and 25 minutes, Bubsya had collected 15 stars. He had a precise setup to
Alright, Brawly time.
and then counted Mario's footsteps to know when to turn through the hallways. To clip through the doors, Bubsy had more setups.
Beat
that
about a
involved
third.
re-grabbing Mitch
You can't.
repeatedly.
Bulk up doesn't matter
They worked, and Bubsy was through both
that
doors
much.
after
It matters in
that.
him raising his attack, but not
But
in
then he
and
arrived at
likewise.
the hardest part of the
And he did like
entire
nothing to me.
run, Bowser in the Fire Sea. There are so many cycles, moving objects, and obstacles all over the place that even with the best setups, Bubsy
Makuhita.
couldn't consistently make it through.
Let's just see how
He
much
had a
confusion
few
does, I
smart
guess.
strategies to help. By listening
Almost
to
a
silly
half.
kicks, he could tell
Bulk
where
up's
the
fine.
platform was in its cycle. A longer distance between each kick meant it was moving down.
All right, there we go.
And a shorter distance meant it was moving up. And later on, by backflipping onto this box, Bubsy knew that even if he took damage in the lava, he was lined up with the heart so he could recover. Safe strategies like these helped, but it still took Bubsy a nearly
The next level's cap is 23.
Fire Sea, with 11 deaths along the way. But eventually, he cleared the level, and after 2.5 hours, he was in the home stretch. Next up were backwards long jumps, and there was no big secret to doing these blindfolded. He just had to line up and hope his mashing got him through the door and up the stairs. And finally,
There's no
Bowser
other
in the
Pokemon that's
sky.
like outright
It's
bad on my
quite
team right
similar
now.
to Fire Sea in that there's several cycles you have to do. The hardest
There's
being
Whismur
the
Evolve.
2 elevators right at the very end. But thanks to a combination of backflips, audio cues.
Oh, Whismur evolves at level 20, so yeah, actually we might want
Bubsy
Whismur
made it
instead.
through
When does
after
Poochyena evolve?
The final Bowser fight requires 3 throws, and Bubsy's
Level
strategy
18,
for the
okay.
first 2 was let
So,
Bowser run at him, then
yeah, we're gonna
drop
want
him right
both
into
of
the
those.
lava. But that's not an
I don't
option for
want
throw
both. I
3.
just have to decide who I want to get
So,
rid of.
he had to just
I might get rid of
randomly spin Bowser
Shroomish,
and
to be
hope
honest.
he won. One
Shroomish
random
evolves
throw
at what
away
level?
from history being made.
I don't know. I remember level 23. Oh, level 23. Okay, so I can't have a Breloom. Oh wait, I forgot he resists electrics.
Okay, so calm down.
Legit. Actually, you know what?
Calm down, guys.
I think I might want to get rid of Dustox. I don't see much use for him after this, except for Death Fodder. So, yeah, this will be our team for Watson, ideally.
Should be to the left. 2 backflips or 1 backflip.
So, all right. Let's go ahead and give the experience share to Poochyena just till he evolves. I was way too happy, bro. We also have the Silk Scarf. Do we want to? Oh, we want to give the Miracle Seed to Breloom, or whatever. You forget. We'll give the Silk Scarf. To, oops. We'll give the Silk Scarf to
He could literally beat Super Mario 64 with his eyes closed. Probably one of
Give
the
it to you, actually.
easiest gaming achievements ever. Now, his run did take over 3 hours, and he either died or restarted 33 times across the game. There was room for
he must
optimization
suck. I'm just kidding. That's actually really good. It's just funny that he.
but he didn't.
It sounds like he sucks though.
He was the only person in the world capable of doing this, and he was happy to move on with his life.
Yeah, I can technically
But
get
little
counter.
did Bubsy know, while he was working on his 16-star run, there
Slave
was
Horse.
another player on the
Get the
other
old rod.
side of the world doing the exact same thing. Z-Surf. Neither player knew of the other's existence, and Bubsy's completed run came as a big surprise to Z-Surf. He was still working on individual stars. This other guy was way ahead of him. But Z-Surf wasn't deterred. He talked with Bubsy, learning some of his strategies while improving on his own. He found different routes to take and ways he could complete certain stars faster. By the time he started full game runs in early 2018, he was
Yeah, I can only ever get Tentacle and Magikarp with the good rod, so or the old rod. So there's literally no point in trying to get any like extra encounters or anything like that.
And a month
All right.
later, he took a full hour off the world record. Mario 64 completed blindfolded in an hour and 58 minutes. A big part of the improvement was the fact that Z-Surf simply died less than Bubsy. He had to restart just 15 times across the run, compared to Bubsy's 33.
What is it?
But his route through the game was also quicker. For one thing, he opted to collect both Peach Slide Stars. He had a
This
fairly
person
safe
gives me
strategy
a
to leap over the edge and make it
yeah,
to the
the
end
suit
in
bell,
421
which is could be
seconds.
useful.
That's
Does he
fast
feel
for a
cheer?
blindfolded star. He also switched out a couple stars in Hazy Maze Cave to save a bit more time. But beyond the route changes, Z-Surf was simply faster than Bubsy-a. He used more audio cues to his advantage.
Alright, let's go get our encounter up here. We want Shroomish up front for this, actually.
He could tell where the rotating platforms were based on what part of
Wingle.
the background music was playing. And just all over the run, Z-Surf's strategies were a bit riskier. Running up a slope rather than backflipping, and using fewer setups. Meanwhile, as Z-Surf was lowering the Mario 64 blindfolded record, Bubsy-a was working on other blindfolded games, most notably Pokemon and Kingdom Hearts. He planned to come back to Mario 64 eventually, but if nothing else, these other games were still helping him improve as a blindfolded speedrunner. He picked up on different blindfolded strategies and ideas while he played. And as the months passed, Bubsy-a realized there was one technique that might really help with Mario 64. Something that would make his movement look much more fluid, almost like he was playing with his eyes open. That fall, Bubsy-a came back to Mario 64.
Alright, special in this gen sucker.
A trick called beat counting. Beat counting
Of
is
course it is.
essentially using the background music's beat as a metronome to time your inputs to. Now, it's important to note that this isn't the same as a music cue. That's where you wait for a specific moment in the song to use as a cue. Instead, beat counting is simply having a consistent frame of reference, in this case the beat of the song, to help time different inputs.
Give yourself sandwich is gonna be great for Marsh Chomp now, sorry.
For example, you can run forward, then know to jump after 3 beats, then press jump again after
Oh my, a crit!
So, this can help
Dude, a crit and he outsped. Of course.
As it replaces insane muscle memory with consistent.
That's bullcrap game. Stupid death. Dumb death.
Who used it in his 70-star run.
So freaking
It helped him
annoying.
all over, allowing for fluid movement that looked like a
Oh, that's our
visual
first death,
trailer.
and it was just some rando trainer that I got really unlucky against.
Other speed games, Bubsy decided to
Alright,
try using it in 60
I guess we're bringing Dustox back in the party.
In September 2018, he came back to Super Mario 64. He wanted to see how much time he could take off of Z-Surf's record of 1 hour and 50
That's so
minutes.
stupid.
How much could beat counting help? Well, right away, Bubsy has saved time on the very first star. He picked up a box and navigated into the corner of the gate by beat counting. By then setting it down on top of Mario's hitbox, he got pushed behind the gate and was able to collect the star. This is an obscure old trick known as box clip, and predates the more traditional bomb clip used in modern visual runs. New strategies with beat counting were used throughout the game. Often, these helped big time with consistency as well as being faster. The slide in Cool Cool Mountain was now beat counted, and Bubsy-a had a safer MIPS grab thanks to beat counting too.
That's everything.
But the biggest time saves with beat counting were the Bowser stages, especially Fire Sea. As you recall, this is probably the hardest level in the run. It took Z-Surf over 17 minutes to get through it in his world record. But here, Bubsy-a used a beat count for the entire stage developed by Katoon. Highlights included a section in the middle where he navigated without adjusting the camera. Since he couldn't see anyway, there was no point in changing the camera angle. He still knew exactly where to go. Bubsy-a flew through the whole level, and ultimately, he completed it in just 2 minutes. A 15-minute time save over Z-Surf. That's the power of beat counting. Bubsy-a was cruising. The run was far from perfect, but after demolishing Fire Sea, he knew he was way ahead of Z-Surf's world record. He couldn't see his exact pace, of course, but he knew it had potential to be a big record. The backwards long jumps went well, and thanks to beat counting and other audio cues, Bowser in the Sky was quick too. Once again, it all came down to hitting this last Bowser throw. And then he could find out just what type of pace this really was.
Yes! Yes! Sapphire! 53, yes! Yeah!
This was ahead of even his wildest dreams. Not only was it sub-hour, but it was sub-hour by several minutes. The whole game beaten blindfolded in 53 minutes. The run did have its slow moments. He died a handful of times, and the worst part was when he had to intentionally drown to restart in Dire Docks. But being able to cut a world record in half did not happen very often. This was everything Bubsy wanted and more. Beat counting had changed blindfolded Mario 64 forever.
Basic grind.
But once again, Bubsy decided this was a good place to stop. Despite there still being room for improvements, he remained interested in exploring other blindfolded speedruns. So, he stopped playing, and for the next year, his blindfolded world record remained unchallenged. But of course, Bubsy wasn't going to stay away for long. 16-star was his bread and butter. And if you've seen my other videos, generally people who dominate a game can't help but come back to it time and time again. Bubsy wanted to see just how low he could take the blindfolded record. So, after a 10-month break, he spent the summer of 2019 rerouting the run, changing up the stars a bit and trying to optimize his strategies. By August, he was ready to start up runs again. And over the course of just 11 days, he did this.
I'm not happy, man. I'm not happy at all. No way, dude. Are you kidding me? No, dude. Oh my god. No, dude.
An unbelievable grind. Thanks to a combination of beat counting, incredible muscle memory, and a ton of skill, Bubsy had beaten Super Mario 64 blindfolded in under 40 minutes. This run had one big mistake. During MIPS, he got lost and had to quit back to the menu. It cost about 2 minutes, so a 36-minute run would be the limit. But there were no major mistakes anywhere else. 38 minutes was incredibly optimized for this type of run. It was exactly what he was looking for. Bubsy really was the king of blindfolded Mario 64. Hardly anyone else had tried it, and those who had were well behind him. He could do with his eyes closed what others couldn't do with their eyes open. And this 38-minute run was his magnum opus. Bubsy was finally done with the grind. No one else even approaching his times. And then, 3 weeks later, something very interesting happened. Completely out of the blue, a new submission appeared for the blindfolded Mario 64 leaderboards. The player's name was Nobori56, and he was claiming to have performed a 35-minute blindfolded run, a new world record. Nobody in the community had heard of him before, and having someone brand new instantly claim a big world record was suspicious, to say the least. And when the community watched his run, it only got stranger. He wasn't beat counting at all. In fact, it seemed like nearly everything he did was muscle memory. It looked an awful lot like he could see what was happening on screen, at least somewhat. Blindfolded speedruns can be easy to fake. If you can get any vision through your blindfold, it makes the run magnitudes easier. This was a tough one.
No. Wait, Airjump, if you could see, it makes the game easier to play? No, I don't believe it.
Or maybe he was a cheater. Over the following few weeks,
Beam
Nuzlocke continued submitting runs, and gradually, everything became clear. Nobori was 100% legit, and he was actually that good. So here's the thing with Nobori. He has an absolute knack for developing muscle memory. Once he does a trick with his eyes open, it doesn't take much practice until he can consistently do it without looking. Therefore, the idea of beat counting never even entered his mind, and he was able to perform nearly everything faster. Even right from their first movements in the castle, you can see the difference. Bubsy had to set up his moves and work his way to the first door, but Nobori adjusted the camera at the perfect moment to do this. Basically indistinguishable from a visual runner. How about getting to Peach's slide? Genuinely impressive, even with eyes open. It was more of the same with the stars. Nobori went for super fast strategies. No beat count setups necessary. Even though he died a few times, the time saved from moving faster more than made up for it. But as you might expect, the place that Nobori improved the most was the Bowser stages. When Bubsy played Bowser in the sky, he kept moving but didn't do anything too flashy. Super impressive for being blindfolded, but nobody would mistake it for a speed run. Nobori, on the other hand, standing left side and elevator skip. It's really hard to believe that all this is possible while blindfolded. But in case there's any doubt Nobori couldn't see, at the end of every run he took off his 18 blindfolds. No way anyone could see through all that. He was simply so much better than any other blindfolded player. He was running while the rest were walking. Nobori 6-minute blindfolded.
Oh no, that was so funny. It wasn't really even funny at all, actually.
Simply inconceivable just a few weeks ago. There's one more moment of Nobori's run I want to talk about. The final Bowser throw right at the very end. This throw had a few different strategies over the years. Bubsy's initial method was to just blindly throw and hope it hit a bomb. But Z-Surf realized that since the whoosh sound occurs at the same time in every spin, you could sync up your joystick to the spinning and know exactly when to release Bowser to hit a bomb. This was the strategy that Bubsy preferred to use, but Nobori took it a step further and used something else that Z-Surf had found. By pausing during the whoosh sound, you could listen to the echo and judge whether or not Mario is facing the bomb. If he's not, then you simply unpause and try again. But if he is, then you can immediately unpause and throw Bowser. It'll hit the bomb every time. This is a brilliant
For the times it won't.
a seemingly impossible task, landing a
Not my fault he left the part out.
Bowser throw into something relatively consistent. Even though he was miles ahead of everyone else, Nobori still felt he could save time over his 26-minute run. He died a couple times and had a particularly slow MIPS grab. So, a few months later, Nobori came back and improved the record to 25 minutes. A run that would have been even faster had he not failed to grab Bowser's tail and had to redo the fight. And just 2 days after that, Nobori made one more improvement. This run was truly incredible from start to finish. He collected the first 11 stars quickly, with no substantial time losses. He died once in Hazy Maze Cave, but it didn't cost him badly. His MIPS grab was instantaneous, right in front of the door. His Bowser stages were all fantastic. His
I don't know why I'm getting insane flinch like right now.
Fight, He grabbed Bowser's tail and landed the third throw.
Definitely not complaining though.
No retries needed. 24 minutes is a genuinely respectable time with your eyes open. Nobori had optimized this run to insane standards. Hard to believe it was all actually possible. As for Bubsia, it was tough to accept what had just happened. He'd been the king of blindfolded Mario 64 for years, and Nobori had demolished all of his times. When Bubsia tried doing Nobori's strategies, he could eventually pull most of them off, but his consistency was poor. Definitely not good enough to complete a full run with them. Bubsia had to accept that he wasn't going to be beating Nobori's record. For the next year, blindfolded 16-star had no activity. There was no point when the world record was this good. Players focused on other categories with less optimized records, and unsurprisingly, Nobori took the top spot for those too. Just pure domination. But eventually, everything calmed down. Nobori stopped playing, and the rest didn't bother trying to beat his times. It almost felt like he had killed blindfolded Mario 64. But then, in October 2020, Bubsia managed to get 16-star into that year's Awesome Games Done Quick. This was the first time anyone would be showing off blindfolded Mario 64 on such a big stage. Bubsia may not have been on Nobori's level, but he wanted to put on a good show. So, he knew he had to get practicing. Bubsia didn't have any illusions of trying to take the record. Instead, he focused on playing for fun, looking for new strategies and not taking things too seriously. And maybe he can improve a bit on his 38-minute PB. Since Nobori's crazy muscle memory strategies were out of the question, Bubsia focused on beat counting strategies. He found faster ones in Whomp's Fortress and Cool Mountain. And on Bowser in the Sky, beat counting allowed him to make a faster elevator cycle at the start. But despite lots of practice, he was still slower than Nobori and he was dying more. The improvements slowly started to come in. First, a 37-minute run, and then nearly a month later, a 35-minute run. Both of these had substantial time losses on the BLJs, so Bubsia knew he had the potential to go a few minutes lower. But this is exactly what he was looking for. Even if he wasn't competing with Nobori, it was still nice to see some improvement. And as the weeks passed, Bubsia kept getting better. His movement was faster, and he was dying less often.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's funny.
For Lakitu skip sometimes.
Yeah,
It wasn't very consistent, but getting it at all while blindfolded was amazing. Bubsia's potential was much faster than 35 minutes, if he could just string it all together in a run.
Fast mips, okay, it's very good. Okay, please BLJs, dude. It will come down to BLJs, dude. I'm up. Oh, oh my god, that would have been sub 30, dude.
This was a fantastic run for Bubsia. He nailed nearly all of his strategies, and had he not missed a throw on Bowser and had to restart, the run would have been a sub 30. But still, it was a great improvement. He wasn't quite on Nobori's level, but he was getting closer. And even though it took months to get here, this was a clear improvement.
Bruh.
Category in a long time.
Seriously, you can't run?
Bubsia had the chance to close the gap even more.
No, not the fastest Pokemon, but like seriously, dude?
New PB, Nobori came back.
What do you mean? Mario.
I mean, I don't know what he leads with, but I know for a fact he does not lead with Grovyle, so, or she doesn't lead with Grovyle, so I'll lead with MYAAA. This is Intensifico because
Nobori's strategies were somehow even
this rival fight's known as being hard. Okay, it leads with Whalmer. Let's go Mudshot. About half. Water Gun doesn't do that much. It's fine. There's their Grovyle. Okay, we're gonna go out to Dustox here.
To
Let's go for Gust.
And most importantly, it was just incredible that he was doing all this
Right.
while blindfolded. Occasionally, he'd have a moment that looked obvious, like when he struggled to collect stars that were right in front
This
of
is
him.
normal.
He'd
We can
turn
just go
around
back
next
out to
moment
Marstomp.
and do something like this. Mind-blowing. Bubsy had improved, yes, but he was not on Nobori's level. It almost seemed like he could lower the record, but he
seems
decided
like, I
to
guess.
stop here. With the world record down to 23 minutes, Nobori had once again killed the competition and blindfolded 16 star. Bubsy knew he wasn't beating this. Nobody was beating it. So instead, he spent much of 2021 focusing on a new challenge, routing a blindfolded 120 star run. This was a massive undertaking, and took up most of his gaming time throughout the year. Yet, even though he wasn't playing the more competitive category in 16 star, working on 120 star still helped him improve at the game. He was optimizing the stars for speed, and as a result, found some new strategies. For instance, in Bob on Battlefield, he found a consistent setup for Bomb Clip, the iconic trick used to get behind the fence quickly. It saves 20 seconds, and looks pretty darn impressive given it's performed blindfolded. After practicing 120 star for several months, Bubsy came back to the game's shorter categories in late 2021, quickly sweeping through each one to lower his PBs. In 16 star, he managed to get a 28-minute run featuring his new tricks. Still slower than Nobori, especially in the Bowser stages, but a decent improvement. After this, he went back to working on 120 star, and Nobori's record remained as safe as ever. At this point, he'd held the record for more than 2 years. Bubsy hadn't been able to catch him, and nobody else was within 15 minutes of him. As 2022 came around, it was really seeming like this was Nobori's record to keep. He could simply do things with a blindfold on that nobody else could. At least, nobody who had tried so far. The only hope of beating Nobori was somebody new coming along, who had their own set of incredible blindfolded skills. Someone like Hendyman. In late 2021, Hendyman became infatuated with blindfolded Super Mario 64. That September, he became just the third person to beat the game blindfolded in under an hour. By January, his time was down to 35 minutes. And by March, he lowered his PB to right behind Bubsy. Impressive improvement from a relative newcomer to blindfolded gaming. Hendy's playstyle was like a hybrid between Bubsy and Nobori. He didn't beat count with numbers, but didn't fully rely on muscle memory either. Many of his fastest strategies involved music cues. He'd mess around in a level with his eyes open and figure out how to time certain actions to the music. Eventually, he'd find a series of inputs that gave him the best consistency, and practice it relentlessly until he could do it blindfolded. Hendy got really good at this, and it paid off with a 28-minute run. He fell behind Bubsy while collecting the stars since he died a few times, but he was actually faster than Bubsy down the stretch. It was gold split after gold split for Mips, Fire Sea, and Bowser in the Sky. After hitting the last throw on Bowser, he knew he had a big PB.
Let's go! Holy
A couple months later, Hendy got on another good run. It started with both Lakitu Skip and Bomb Clip, and then he gained big time in Bowser in the Dark World.
We're gonna go back because I want to get the mail so I can get the coin case. Am I gonna ever need it? Probably not, but it couldn't hurt to have, I guess.
Fire Sea, and died on Bowser at the very end. That's 4 deaths. Yet he still PB'd by a full minute, and moved ahead of Bubsy into second place. Hendy had gotten really good. Despite several
Hendy and the tuna.
the rest of his run was so fast.
Oh,
that he
what
couldn't
the
help
what
but
about
PB.
to go?
Hendy's movement and
Yeah,
speed was incredible.
Hendy and the tuna.
It was honestly starting to look a lot like Nobori. The only thing he didn't have was Nobori's consistency. These mistakes made up the bulk of the difference. It was safe to say that Hendy was officially a world record contender. And over the next few months, things would get quite interesting. Hendy started practicing the last few tricks he needed to learn, like standing left side and elevator skip. And most importantly, He worked hard to build his consistency. He knew that he had the skills to get this world record. He just needed to hold it together for long enough and get it all to line up in one run.
I don't know what just happened. I think I fat fingered A. Dude! Yeah!
You did Super Mario 64 16-star blindfolded in 26 minutes. You did Super blindfolded in 25 minutes and 11 seconds. You did Super Mario 64.
That's 3
Personal
days
best.
in a row.
Improved your run.
Hendy was closing in. This was a 24-minute run with 2 deaths and other scattered time losses throughout. There was easily a minute worth of improvements he could make. But Hendy was getting exhausted. Doing hundreds of runs with your eyes closed gets monotonous, and he enjoyed looking for strategies more than he enjoyed doing runs. So, even though he was so close, Hendy decided to take a break from 16-star, and instead focus on blindfolded 1-star, an even shorter category. Meanwhile, Bubzia was watching everything Hendy did in 16-star. He was amazed at how close he'd gotten to Nobori, and after completing the world's first blindfolded 120-star run in May, Bubzia was ready for a new challenge. He'd improved so much while on the 120-star grind, and had gotten especially good at searching for new strategies. Bubzia had turned into a new player. His old 28-minute PB in 16-star was in a distant 3rd place. In July 2022, he embarked on a quest to change that.
I didn't take these
Bubzia
up.
still didn't rely on muscle memory as heavily as Nobori. That meant his gameplay would generally be a bit slower as he had to set things up more. But if he could make up the difference with strategies, maybe he had a chance at it.
Then where's my experience share?
He and Hendy found new tricks all across the run, like triple jumping off the womp while going up top, and long jumping.
Oh, it's on Shroomish. Okay, I was like,
These small improvements began to add up, but the heavy hitters were in the final 2 Bowser stages. Bubzia found a beat count to reach Nobori's elevator cycle in Fire Sea, cutting out his muscle memory strategies while matching his speed.
Hey, let's go take on the gym trainers real quick.
Bubzia decided he had to commit
Not a bad idea.
to going for everything. Standing left side, elevator skip, and even doing a triple jump dive onto the rotating platform. Bubzia knew this would help make up for some of the speed and movement difference, but would it be enough? That July, he got on a run that fell about 45 seconds behind Nobori after the first 8 stars. After accidentally quitting out of Lethal Lava Land and missing the star in Dire Docks, his deficit rose to over 2.5 minutes. But he did manage to gain time on the BLJs and executed his new Bowser in the Sky strategies to perfection. The end result was a 25:49, 2 minutes behind the record and 1 minute behind Hendy. Bubzia was a changed player. Look, he hadn't held the record in 3 years now. Nobori had always been just too dominant to beat. But this run was proof that finally, he was fast enough. The world record was within reach. If Bubzia could clean up a couple blunders in the middle of the run, then he could finally get the top spot back. Bubzia got off to a great start. He hit all his new strategies through Dark World and had a 20-second lead over Nobori. In Lethal Lava Land, he looked like a visual runner collecting the 8 coins. No hesitations. He nailed getting on the submarine in Dire Dire Docks and had a beautiful fire sea. All of a sudden, Bubsy had
How many raccoons do I have?
a run into the BLJs.
9.
After 3 long years, Bubsy was back on top. It had taken a monumental effort to beat Nobori, but it all paid off. He still couldn't use muscle memory the way Nobori did. Nobody could. But through years of strategizing and improving, he was able to make up the difference anyway. Congratulations poured in, and Bubsy pondered what to do next. A sub 23-minute run was definitely within reach, but ultimately, he decided a 23:17 was good enough, and moved on to other categories. In the time since this run, Hendy and Nobori have been inactive from blindfolded gaming. Bubsy, on the other hand, after taking a break for a few months, he returned to 16-star by early 2023, and ever since then, he's been on a quest for a sub 20-minute blindfolded run. Sub 20 is a milestone for visual runners. Taking the blindfolded world record there would be completely insane, but that's what Bubsy was determined to do. It all started when Bubsy and Nico, the category's current 4th place runner, began developing a way to perform blindfolded LBLJ. This trick is used in top-level visual runs. By jumping into an out-of-bounds area in the lobby, it's possible to then precisely do a backwards long jump that sends you into Bowser in the Dark World, an area that normally requires 8 stars. Once there, you want to collect the 8 red coins to obtain a star, so that you can later head straight to Whomp's Fortress. They found methods to complete LBLJ and the red coins blindfolded, but obviously it was a major difficulty increase. And when combining that with other tricks like Owlless and improving movement everywhere, they reasoned that a sub 20-minute run was indeed possible. But possible and realistic are 2 separate things. In mid-2023, Bubsy decided to make a push for the sub 20. Quickly though, he found that the LBLJ route was far too inconsistent. After abandoning it, he focused on optimizing the rest of the run, and managed to lower the record down to 22 minutes.
Yeah! A minute!
But to get the sub 20, Bubsy knew the LBLJ had to be implemented. In January 2024, he took another look at the route with Nico and another community member, Honeybeef. They realized it would be faster to skip Cool Cool Mountain entirely, adding another star in Shifting Sandland and Lethal Lava Land instead. This saved another 20 seconds, and now, Bubsy felt that he had to commit to LBLJ. The upside was too good to pass up. On February 15th, 2024, Bubsy managed to land LBLJ and the Reds in his fastest time ever.
World records!
He struggled a bit with the new stars, dying once each in Shifting Sandland and Lethal Lava Land, but even still, he was hitting most of his new strategies. He had a clean fire sea, then got both BLJs first try. After flying through Bowser in the Sky, Bubsy had a chance at a big world record.
No! No, I think I threw it. Yes! Okay, at least second try, man. Yes! Yes!
A 21-minute run with 2 deaths and a missed throw. It wouldn't have quite been a sub 20, but clearly the run still has room to go lower. And this 21:48 is where the record stands today. Bubsya is still actively pushing for the sub 20, and if Hendy or Nobori come back, they can certainly get there too. It's unreal to see the progression from Bubsya's first blindfolded run 6 years ago to what he and others can pull off today. They went from barely limping through the game to flying through like a visual runner. All this difference in just 6 years. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see what another 6 years of progression will do to this run. Thanks for watching. For a behind the scenes look at how I made this video and storylines that I couldn't include, join my Patreon page. I only charge when I upload a video. Thanks. Here's Tetris. We all know it, and we all love it. Few games have had the lasting legacy of Tetris. There have been versions released on nearly every console and smartphone ever made, and to this day, these new versions remain popular among fans and casual gamers alike. But perhaps the most well-known version of Tetris is the version released on the Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1989. Gamers never stopped playing it ever since its initial release, and in recent years, it's absolutely exploded in popularity. There are huge in-person tournaments, monthly competitions online, and most importantly, a crazy chase for the high score world record. This record has had 35 years of history, featuring some of the best players to ever pick up an NES controller. And it has one of the most insane stories from start to finish that I've ever seen. This is the history of NES Tetris World Records. And now a word from this video's sponsor, Opera GX. Look, we all know that Opera GX is the best web browser for gamers. It's easy to switch to, uses GX control to limit your use of resources, and is super customizable. But today, we're introducing its newest feature, a Summoning Salt GX mod. It has an awesome retro gaming wallpaper, as well as custom sound effects featuring yours truly. So here it is. Thanks. It's super easy to add. Just go to the GX store, type in Summoning Salt, and hit install. But there's also thousands of other mods to pick from. And that's not all Opera GX does. There's also GX Corner, where you can stay up to date with the latest in gaming news, deals, and even get free games, all in one place. There's also new features with AI, saving you time by summarizing articles or talking with ChatGPT on the sidebar. If you want the best web browser out there, download Opera GX using my dedicated tracking link. Just click the link in the description or pinned comment. Thanks again to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. There are two main concepts to understand in NES Tetris, the scoring and the level system. We'll start with the scoring. Like with most versions of the game, you accumulate points in NES Tetris by clearing lines. You get a different amount of points depending on how many you clear at once, but by far the most valuable score is getting a Tetris. The only way to score one of these is by using the long piece vertically to clear 4 lines. So ideally, players try to score as many Tetrises as possible by leaving a column open on the right side to drop a long bar when it comes. Then there's the level system. The higher the level, the more points you get per line cleared. So ideally, you want to start on the highest level possible, which is level 19. However, on level 18, blocks descend a row every 3 frames, while starting on level 19, they descend a row every 2 frames, which is significantly harder. So, top players would generally start on level 18, where they could play for a while at a more reasonable speed at barely any score cost. After 130 lines cleared at level 18, the game transitions to level 19, and then moves up a level for every additional 10 lines. Luckily, levels 19 through 28 all have the same descent speed, although you keep earning more points as the level increases. This is an extremely brutal speed to play on, but if you manage to make it all the way through level 28, then you reach level 29, also known as
No
Tetris'
way,
kill
I don't
screen.
believe you.
A kill screen is a level deep into a game that's usually impossible to beat because of a glitch. Pac-Man has the most famous one. The game's 256th board has a glitched right side and doesn't spawn all the dots needed to beat it. Donkey Kong has another example, where you run out of time just seconds into the game's 117th screen. Tetris's kill screen, on the other hand, has nothing to do with a glitch. It's the intended end to the game, because starting on level 29, pieces begin to fall so fast that it becomes unplayable. This is Tetris's kill screen. Even if you begin holding a direction before the piece spawns, it's physically impossible to move the piece to the side in time. Pieces descend a row every single frame, twice the speed of level 28. Now, it's actually possible to process what's happening at this speed, and know where you want the pieces to go. But the fact is, you just can't get them there. It's a game hardware limitation rather than a human hardware limitation. If you're very lucky, you might not need to move your pieces far and you can clear a line or two. But just like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, your game is bound to end within seconds after reaching Tetris's kill screen. So the game is definitely over at level 29. But before that point,
Right.
you have 230 lines to work with and try to score as many points as possible. And it just so happens that the point display in the upper right corner only has 6 digits, meaning the highest score it can display is 999,999 points. So naturally, the question arose, was it
I should
possible
have.
to max out the score before the kill screen kicked in? Well, in order to get a max out, you have to make the most of your 230 lines. That means getting as many Tetrises as possible, while avoiding other clears that eat into your 230 lines, otherwise known as a burn. It's extremely risky to play this way. You might need to build your stack up very high while waiting for a long bar, and there's not a moment of rest. You can't break your focus for even a second. But as brutal as the difficulty is,
4 Rosalia in a row,
it's
really?
technically just possible to max out the score before the kill screen kicks in. And there are actually reports of people doing it all the way back in the 90s. It's difficult to determine how to treat these claims. Standards were different back then, and none of these claims have a full video to go along with them. However, some have more proof than others. Thor Ackerland, winner of the 1990 Nintendo World Championships, is reported to have maxed out the game in the early 90s. He didn't record his game, but being the literal winner of the Nintendo World Championships, he was one of the best Tetris players in the world at the time. Judging by his skills and the testimony of people who watched him play, it's very likely that his claim was legitimate. Another max out claim appeared in a 1992 edition of Nintendo Power magazine from a player named Scott Anderson. Very little is known about
Scott
Anderson
Bradford.
today, but in order to
I'm
get
19.
Nintendo
Well, I'm gonna be
Power,
20 in like
you
December.
need to have proof. So there's a decent chance his score was legit too. And another player, JW Tetris,
Alright, let me
claimed
pull up,
a max out back in 1996 that seemed to have no proof. But
Let me pull up
25
Watson's
years
team real
later,
quick.
he managed to uncover a VHS tape of the end screen that, sure enough, showed all 9s. While it still lacks concrete video proof, this is probably the claim with the most.
Alright,
evidence,
so he's
and
got
it's
a
likely legit.
Magnemite, Magneton, and
By the
Volt.
2000s, all sorts of max out claims appeared on
Yeah,
internet
Moshrop should just be able to
None of them had
sweep,
video
but
proof, and honestly, they're really hard to judge.
Yeah, I guess.
Some seem more suspicious than others, but just like with the claims from the 90s, it's really impossible to say which of these internet claims were legit. Some provided their names, while others used pseudonyms or usernames. And in 2001, a max out claim popped up on plutobscene.com from someone named Jonas. Just like all the
That
other
was easy.
claims,
Brr.
Jonas didn't have any proof to back up his score.
Alright, next level cap is level 28.
All the rest. However, in 2005, a man named Trey Harrison was trying to accumulate videos of Tetris
In the next-
performances to put up on his website, TetrisMaster.com. He was looking
Okay, yeah, the
for
next,
40 max out, and sure enough,
Gym leader's
in the replies,
Flannery.
up
So
pops
we're gonna want to
Jonas
deposit
again, saying he
Rosalia
just
in
recorded
Breloom.
one on tape. Jonas dropped the video off at Trey's house.
We'll
Trey
take
uploaded it onto
Makuhita
the website, and it was
and
then that the world was first able to see on video a
maybe
max out
no,
score
tentacle's
of
too risky
NES
because it's weak to
Tetris.
ground.
A score showing
Might be
all
worth
nines
a Wingle
by
actually.
future Tetris legend Jonas Neubauer.
We're gonna give you the experience share.
What you're watching is a massive piece of gaming history. These scores have been rumored for over a decade, but finally one was captured on video. And the footage is very impressive. Jonas started on level 18, and to
Alright,
make
let's
the
go ahead
level
and do
20,
the
he
Watsons
first had
or
to
whatever
beat
these people are
130
called.
points.
No, the win streets or
He
whatever.
ended up getting
Because
only 2
they
of
give
those
you the matcha
points
brace and
via
that might,
Tetrises
you know,
for maximum points,
helpful.
while just 38 were from burns. From there,
I don't think it
Jonas
could
was
hurt.
playing at a brutal speed of level 19, but he still had to keep landing Tetrises. His score was inching up as the levels climbed higher. He needed the max out before hitting level 29. On level 28, he was still 60,000 points away, with only 10 lines to work with. But he managed to get one Tetris, and then with just a single line to go before the transition, he got one final Tetris. The kill screen kicked in, and the score read all nines. Over the course of 8.5 minutes, Jonas had hit a max out on NES Tetris. And finally, it was documented for anyone to see. The feedback online was all positive. Everyone was thrilled to be
Why would it be
able to watch
negative?
the official Tetris max out.
That record was mine.
It did have one
Like,
problem. There was no
that's the only complaint I can imagine.
That meant Jonas
We got
couldn't
Rock
submit
Smash
the
here.
world record. But that didn't take away from the legitimacy of the performance. Jonas Neubauer had established a name for himself as a Tetris master. Only question was,
Yeah, we're gonna teach
now
Rock
that
Smash to
someone
you.
had maxed out the game, what was there left to do? Over the following few years, while competitive retro gaming was still in its infancy, more people gravitated toward playing NES Tetris. Even though Jonas had maxed out the score, it remained a popular game, and others
Oh,
tried
hold on,
to
before we go, we
replicate
can go
the
get
achievement.
the HM for strength, I
Between
believe.
2008 and 2014, more than a dozen other people were able to achieve max outs in NES Tetris. And even though their scores were officially tied, there were still ways to compare max outs to each other. Ultimately, two different methods of competing became popular. Method number 1, going for the earliest possible max out. In Jonas's game from 2005, he hit the max out right as the level transitioned to 29. In other words, at the last possible moment. But the more Tetrises you hit, the earlier you can max out, and the more impressive the achievement. In April 2009, Harry Hong produced the first recorded max out with game audio, and he was able to get the max out slightly earlier than Jonas, late in level 28 rather than on the transition into level 29. Harry was one of several people who claimed a max out.
Alright, let me
on
just
internet
go
forums
sell
as
some
a
stuff.
browser, but now he had recorded proof too. In early 2012, a player named Matt Bucco recorded a game where he maxed out in mid-level 26, much quicker than previous max outs. He landed Tetris after Tetris starting in level 19, which was where he pulled away from previous players. And then, there were a couple claimed early max outs. Harry Hong claimed an early level 26 max out on tape, but he didn't upload the score, only claiming it on a Tetris forum. And in August 2014, a player named Terry Purcell reportedly maxed out in late level 25. This score used to have video, but it's since been deleted from YouTube. Most of these players' only goal was to get an early max out. As soon as that happened, they stopped playing and let the game end, even if it was several levels before the kill screen. However, not everyone did this, and that's why there was a second method of competing. Playing the game all the way to the kill screen and then manually calculating the score later. In other words, trying for the highest score possible. Even though the score doesn't display higher than all 9s, you can still add up all the points achieved after this to determine your true score. For instance, in Jonas's first ever max out, he got a Tetris while his score read this. That meant he added 36,000 points, and his score actually finished at 1,018,160 points. And so, this became another method of determining whose max out was best. In 2008, Jonas achieved another kill screen that finished slightly higher than his 2005 max out, 1,023,860 points. However, since he used a camera from the 1800s, this was never verified as an official world record. In 2011, while recording himself for a documentary, Thor Ackerland achieved a score of 1,043,000 points. And a couple years later,
yeah, you don't really get any good
took the score
normal moves if you level up.
1,071,000
You'll be my strength user,
before the kill
not
screen
abuser.
took over to end his game. However, if the players going for the earliest max out had finished out their games, it's possible they would have achieved higher scores than these. Terry Purcell's level 25 max out is reported to have finished all the way at 1.195 million, but without video proof, this can't be verified. And although Matt Buko's score of level 26 cuts off right here, he claims to have kept playing this game all the way to the kill screen. And in the comments, he says he'd upload the rest when he got home. Well, it's 12 years later, and apparently Matt still hasn't returned home. So, the community was split between these two methods. Some wanted to go for the earliest max out, while others wanted to go for the highest score. The big problem was the score display. Since it only had 6
I need to go
digits,
get Bray
it
Loom
wasn't intuitive
or
to keep
a
playing
Rosalia
after
out.
maxed out.
Status to the
It led
encounter.
to two different sides of competitive play. And these sides wouldn't converge until one key event in 2015. This is a Game Genie code discovered by Max Out player Josh Tolles. It changes the leading digit of the score into hexadecimal, meaning that after 9, the score keeps counting up. A represents 1 million, B represents 1.1 million, and so on. This meant that the max out no longer applied, and the score was no longer capped at 1 million. So, it ultimately garnered the nickname the Uncap code. Josh posted his code on the Tetris forums, and it was treated as a fun novelty, but some saw potential for more with it. And in April 2015, Harry Hong began attempts to set a new high score with the Uncap code. On April 23rd, he played a game that maxed out in level 28, then took it to the kill screen and finished with 1,101,000 points. This was the first verifiable game to score over 1.1 million.
Okay, so I can get him a choke before Flannery. So yeah, probably worth adding to the. Hold on, we don't want to go back yet because we still got third counter in the.
Competition for the high score record died down. Harry Hong was one of few players who both cared about the high score record and was potentially good enough to improve it. So when he stopped trying for it, there was no competition to take it from him. Instead, in 2016, he came up with a goal of achieving as many max outs as he could in a year, rather than improving the uncapped record. 268 max outs later, the high score remained at 1.15 million. But in 2017, Harry came up with a new goal for his stream. He was going to go back to playing with the uncapped code and try for a 1.2 million point game. This would surpass the highest claims from over the years, and be an undisputed world record. Harry played for weeks, building up his skills but falling short of the 1.2. He'd need an early max out, in level 25 or better, and then still need to land several more Tetrises before the kill screen. A score like this demanded near perfection, but after months of attempts, on April 14th, 2017, Harry got a good score going. Max out in mid-level 25, Harry was on pace for it. From this point, he needed at least 5 Tetrises before hitting the kill screen on level 29. Harry got his Tetrises, but was still a few points short. With his stack building high, he desperately used a long bar to get a triple, but this activated the kill screen.
Oh baby, a triple!
Harry had to find a way to clear 2 more lines while playing at kill screen speed.
Yes!
Can't wait till we get fly, dude.
History was made. The congratulations poured in as Harry had taken Tetris to new heights. After all the max outs that came before him, from the internet claims to the ones with concrete proof, this one was the best of all. Except, it's never quite that easy with NES Tetris. There are reports that, around the time of Harry's 1.2, a player named Bo Steele achieved a 1.2 million game of his own. Nobody remembers what his exact score was, or what the level of proof was, but Bo is a verified max out player, so his score claim isn't unreasonable. Still, Harry Hong gets the most credit for being the first to achieve 1.2 million, and he was one of the best players in the world, one of the few who was capable of a score this high. However, as good as Harry was, there was still another player who had potential to go even higher. See, every year since 2010, the biggest Tetris tournament was the Classic Tetris World Championship, where the best NES Tetris players in the world competed. Of the 7 annual tournaments by this point, one
doesn't get stopped till level 29, so until then, we're gonna do secret power to.
By the same player, Jonas New.
That is just not a good move. No matter what way you cut it. No pun intended.
6-time world champion, Jonas Neubauer!
In the 12 years since his first recorded max out, Jonas had turned into a monster. Every year, he went head-to-head against Tetris's best players. And time again, Jonas proved better than the rest. His stacking was brilliant, and he was able to get out of trouble when others couldn't. Jonas Neubauer was simply considered the best NES Tetris player on Earth. Yet through all this, he'd never really cared about the score world record. He was more focused on tournaments. But in 2017, he started streaming on Twitch, and on July 24th, he booted up a casual game of Tetris. That was 17 straight Tetrises to open the game. Unbelievable. He slowed down a bit after that, but still managed to max out in mid-level 26. And then, he landed 6 more Tetrises before the kill screen. Jonas's score read all 9s since he wasn't using the uncap code, but in reality, his score was 1,211,000 points. On a random game where he didn't even bother to use the uncap code, Jonas had just set a new world record. After this, Jonas went back to focusing on tournaments, not caring to improve the high score record anymore. And while other players continued to put up new scores, some of which were over 1 million, very few were able to approach a score of 1.2 million. This type of game was reserved for only the best of the best Tetris players, and even they couldn't consistently put up scores like this. It took a lot of luck to get long bars when you need them. So, Jonas instead prepared for the 2017 Classic Tetris World Championship. And that November, he officially made it 7 World Championship victories.
There it is! Jonas is your champion! 2017 champion!
There was nobody else on his level. And in June 2018, a year after his 1.21 million game, Jonas set out to improve the score world record, trying to take it to a level where nobody else could even touch it. This time, Jonas wasn't messing around. He was using the uncap code, so he could know right away what his score was. On June 13th, he got a really good game going, a max out in level 25. After landing 5 more Tetrises, his score was just short of 1.2 million, with only 4 lines until the kill screen. Jonas built a center well, waiting for the long bar that would push him over the top. And then, he got it.
Let's go!
New world record, 1.23 million. But Jonas wasn't satisfied yet. A week later, he managed another level 25 max out. He then got 6 more Tetrises, pushing his score past 1.2 million. 1 more Tetris, and he'd have another record. But then, his stack started building high. Jonas wasn't getting a long bar, and he was quickly running out of room. Yet, he didn't panic, and finally, the long bar came.
Oh, let's go! Get out of my face!
A 15,000 point improvement to the world record. This was the state of NES Tetris in mid-2018. There were many good players, some of whom could score over 1 million points. But when all else was held equal, Jonas usually came out on top. He always won the world championship. He had the score record, and it was intimidating to compete against him. It seemed like, as long as he wanted to hold the high score world record, he'd be able to do so. That is, unless Corion had something to say about it. In 2016, a player named Corion posted a video of his first NES Tetris max out. By this point, several players had achieved the max out, so the achievement alone wasn't too notable. However, when he posted a video with a hand cam, Corion was shown to be doing something very differently. He was mashing the D-pad to move the pieces laterally, rather than simply holding it down. In Tetris, there's a concept known as the delayed auto shift, or DAS. When you hold down the D-pad in NES Tetris, your piece will auto shift to the side every 6 frames, or 10 times per second. This is quite fast, and leaves you with enough time to navigate even on the breakneck speed of level 19. However, Corion is from Japan, and NES Tetris was never actually released in Japan. So, his background was from playing various other versions of Tetris, including the Game Boy edition. In Game Boy Tetris, when you hold down the D-pad, the piece hesitates momentarily and then moves roughly 7 times per second. This process is too slow when playing at higher levels, so Game Boy Tetris players have to repeatedly repress the D-pad to move their pieces quickly enough. And since Corion was used to playing this and various arcade games, it was only natural to mash the D-pad in NES Tetris as well. But this actually gave Corion an advantage. He was able to accurately mash faster than DAS normally moved the pieces. He could move blocks just a little bit quicker than normal, and it meant that once he reached the kill screen on level 29, he actually stood a chance to clear a few lines. He couldn't play for long, but it wasn't necessarily an instant game over. In June 2017, he managed to clear 10 lines on level 29 and reach level 30. Only a couple other players had ever done that before, and not surprisingly, they had to use a form of hyper-tapping to pull it off. Ultimately though, this just let Corion get a few more points before topping out. If he wanted to beat the score world record, he needed to focus on getting more Tetrises before the kill screen. He spent months improving his skills, and by August 2017, he became the 3rd player to pass 1.2 million, But as Jonas kept improving the record, Corian found himself falling behind. And by June 2018, the score to beat was 1.245 million. But Corian didn't want to give up. Even though he was a bit behind Jonas, the potential with hyper tapping was just too strong. That summer, Corian began a push for the world record. And on June 24th, he had a strong game going. Landing Tetris after Tetris, Corian's score climbed past 600,000. Then, the game transitioned to level 19. This is where hyper tapping would really come into play. Right away, he managed to get a long bar over in a spot that would have been risky with Das. And he kept on going, precisely navigating pieces while frantically mashing on the D-pad. He ended up maxing out the score during level 25, just about tied with Jonas's world record. The Tetrises continued, and eventually Corian found himself at 1.22 million, with only one line until the kill screen. He just needed one more Tetris. Corian was praying that it would come in time.
One, freeze! Freeze, come on! Yes! Woo! Yes! 1.25. Woo!
This was the first ever game past 1.25 million. And finally, 7-time world champion Jonas
the crit would kill me.
This game helped prove the use of hyper tapping. While Corian wasn't guaranteed to have topped out with Das, there were definitely situations where hyper tapping helped. The problem is, Corian was one of few players who could reliably hyper tap. You not only had to mash quickly, but also do it in a controlled manner to always move your piece the exact right amount. Corian focused on other categories for the next few months, but in early 2019, he came back, looking to take the record closer to 1.3 million. And on March 5th, he'd get a good chance. His start was very smooth, and the only sketchy moment came at 800,000, when he misdropped and then narrowly brought a long bar over to the right in time. That's where hyper tapping can help you. He ended up maxing out the score in late level 25. With 30 lines until the kill screen, Corian had just enough room to get 8 more Tetrises and finish off one more improvement to the world record.
Yes! Yes! Updated my big world record! Yes!
This was a really great game, yet still remained 27,000 points short of 1.3 million. That score still seemed like a pipe dream. The only way to do it would be to get an earlier max out, and then match Corian's 8 Tetrises afterwards. And with Corian being one of the few hyper tappers with the skill to do that, 1.3 million was just a bit out of reach.
Oh, I went the wrong one, I went the wrong one, I went the wrong one, I went the wrong one. Oh wow.
Corian's 1.27.
That's hilarious.
One of the strangest events in Tetris history took place. One day in June 2019, a man named Tyler Peach popped up in the Discord server. Tyler said he was from Germany, and that back in the mid-90s, he scored 1.33 million in a game of NES Tetris.
That was a new encounter.
This was a bold claim. For one thing, it was 60,000 points ahead of the current highest known score. And for another, the uncapped code didn't exist in the 90s.
Oh, left T, I forgot.
So how did he know what his exact score was? Tyler tried to convince people he was legit.
Watergun almost definitely kills, man. Let's go to Hariyama.
Outrageous claims. So, to show his skills, Tyler said he would attempt to qualify for the July monthly tournament. And then... Tyler proceeded to post the highest qualifying score ever for a tournament. Only a handful of players had ever achieved the 1.2, and Tyler just did it on command to show his skills. He immediately began doing live streaming attempts to break the score world record, and just days later, he achieved a score of 1.298 million, smashing the world record by 25,000 points. He maxed out in level 24, one level sooner than Corian did, and proceeded to match his 8 Tetrises afterwards. And while Tyler didn't use a webcam, it seemed that he too was hyper-tapping. He was able to get his pieces to fly across the board. Who on earth was this guy? Were his scores faked somehow? Nobody knew for sure, and the top players had a variety of opinions. But there was nothing in Tyler's gameplay that screamed it was fake. The circumstances were just so weird. A legend from the 90s, who nobody had heard of before, coming back and crushing the competition. The story sounded too insane to be real. Well, months down the road, the truth came out. Tyler's scores were 100% legitimate, but he wasn't a real person. Tyler was actually the alt account of one of the best Tetris players in the world. He was the teenage prodigy, Joseph Saley. Joseph came onto the Tetris scene in 2017 and spent hours watching the game's two best players, Jonas and Corian. He learned a lot from them, and Joseph's skills rapidly improved. By March 2018, he achieved his first max out. By September, his score was up to 1.15 million. In less than a year, he had become a world-class player. However, there were still a handful of players who had a better score PB. But a few months later came the 2018 Classic Tetris World Championship. Joseph entered the tournament and played beautifully, defeating opponent after opponent and making it all the way to the finals. And what a surprise, the other finalist was Jonas Neubauer, the 7-time world champion. Jonas was heavily favored to defeat Joseph and take home his 8th title, but in a shocking twist, Joseph swept Jonas 3-0.
Tetris for Joseph! And we have a new Tetris World Champion!
Joseph Saley was now a world champion. But despite that, he didn't have the score world record. That still belonged to Corian. So, in early 2019, he made an effort to take it, first passing 1.2 million, then 1.25 million. But he still remained a bit short of the record. And that's where he decided to have some fun. Joseph started streaming attempts to an alt account and built up the Tyler Peach persona. And even though he didn't do many attempts there, one of them ended up breaking the world record. So, he decided to roll with it, before eventually revealing that he was behind it all. So now, Joseph had them both, the championship title and the score record. But even beyond that, Joseph had one specific skill that no other Tetris player had. He could actually play on the kill screen. Joseph was a hyper tapper, and a very good one at that. He moved pieces quicker than anyone else. The kill screen kicks in on level 29, and in September 2018, Joseph became the first person to make it to level 31 on video. A month later, he became the first to make it to level 32. It was amazing. Kill screens are not meant to be playable, but Joseph was doing it. He couldn't go for long, but he was legitimately clearing lines and even full levels. He was even outsmarting the developers. Upon reaching level 30, the game's level counter appears bugged. Tetris's programmers did not expect anyone to make it here. Joseph was doing what was thought to be impossible. But as impressive as this was, it wasn't enough to get the score record. Joseph would still have to maximize his Tetrises earlier to really rack up the score. And not only that, but he wasn't the only one gunning for the world record. Harry Hong and Corian, two previous record holders in the category, were interested in trying as well. And so, it became a three-way race between Harry, Corian, and Joseph for the first 1.3 million score in NES Tetris. Harry was the first to strike. In August 2019, he got a new high score of 1.275 million. This was short of the 1.298 world record, but those who thought Tyler P was cheating considered this score the official world record. Still, it didn't reach 1.3 million. Harry would have needed one more Tetris before the kill screen to push him over the top. Instead, maybe Corian could get the 1.3. He was the more recent record holder, and his personal best remained at 1.273 million. Perhaps his hyper-tapping skills would be enough to get him there. In November, Corion had a great game going. He got a max out in level 25, then landed 7 Tetrises, pushing his score past 1.2 million. After getting another Tetris, Corion was in position to crush his PB and maybe get 1.3 million if he could just get one final Tetris.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I was just trying to see what the moveset was. I would have switched out to him. This is actually really bad.
Corion got a massive long bar drought and couldn't get the last Tetris he needed. But of the 3 players, the one with the best chance at 1.3 million was Joseph. He'd already gotten 1.298 million on the Tyler account. He only needed a tiny improvement to get him there. Well, that December, Joseph found himself in nearly the exact same position as Corion. A max out in level 25 and needing one more Tetris for 1.3 million. This could be it. But
we're gonna have to sack off him on here, I think.
Yes! Oh my god!
Where's Psychofix Blood?
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Joseph already had 1.3 million, but then he landed a Tetris on the kill screen. This move was only possible with good hyper tapping, not DAS. This gave him another 36,000 points and pushed him past 1.35 million.
Hate to do it, but like,
it was the first time
it was the best call. X-Blood's not that great.
In a record, and it raised all sorts of questions.
At least not in
Was
Gen
this
3.
move realistic to replicate? How many kill screen points could you get? And since he was past 1.35 million, could Joseph get the score record to 1.4 million? This score would have nearly sounded impossible just weeks earlier. But now, there was a blueprint. We'd already seen Joseph get 1.3 million points going into the kill screen. If he could land a few Tetrises and get 100,000 points on the kill screen, that would be enough for 1.4 million. Joseph was the only player who could realistically do this. And a few months later, when the pandemic hit, he decided to fully commit and make a push for the 1.4. This was going to be an intense grind. Joseph had to maximize points everywhere, both before and during the kill screen. For one thing, he decided to start on level 19 rather than
He's got 2 Slugma and
the
a
pieces fell faster,
Torkoal.
but it also allowed him to rack up more points, potentially 30 to
Okay,
40,000 more than starting on level 18. And Joseph needed every point he could get. He couldn't afford to burn lines. He had to nearly exclusively go for Tetrises to maximize points. Yet, as tough as all this was, it was actually the easy part of the grind. The hard part was then scoring 100,000 more points on the kill screen.
Wait, should we get Rosalia? No, hold on. Let me put Rosalia in the party so I can status my next encounter real quick.
At this speed was brutal. As fast of a hyper tapper as he was, the kill screen was still the kill screen. You're not intended to play at this level. And Joseph had run
I
after
lost my
run
Rock Smasher,
by
dang it.
after making it this far. Clearly, 1.4 million would require the stars to align. Well, that June, Joseph would get a chance.
So good to
He
Linoon.
got a max out in level 25.
I hate that Linoon's like just slowly turning into my like HMon, but like
3 million points.
kind of is what it is, right?
Now,
Like,
he had to make it to 1.4.
it's just not going to be a permanent team member. The only main reason I'm really using it is because of pickup.
Oops. Hey, this world record though. Nice.
A new record, but Joseph seemed to barely care. It was still 25,000 short of 1.4 million. This game really illustrates the dilemma when playing on the kill screen. Do you try and keep your stack low to survive as long as possible? Or try to rack up points quickly by going for Tetrises? Eventually, Joseph found a solution. Why not just get to the kill screen with a crazy score so you don't need that many points?
Dude. Okay.
Oh my god, dude. Shut up,
No.
Stop it.
It's not good. Oh my god. World record though. Dude.
This pace was insane. Even scoring just one Tetris on the kill screen would have been enough for 1.4. But Joseph couldn't survive long enough to get a Tetris. He topped out just 10,000 points short. Still though, clearly he was closing in on 1.4 million. It seemed like it could be just days away. Well, on June 14th, 2020, Joseph started a game on level 18 rather than 19 and set a score of 1.384 million. This was the highest ever score from a level 18 start, a notable achievement. So, Joseph stopped recording on OBS and uploaded the video to YouTube. But then, he forgot to hit record again and continued playing. Joseph was oblivious to the fact that his gameplay wasn't being saved. And hours later, he allegedly achieved a score of 1.439 million. Obviously, this game can't be viewed today. He was streaming it to a Discord call though, and one of his friends was recording the audio of said call, where you can hear people freaking out at what Joseph was doing.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 1.4. Oh my god.
But there's no video to go along with this. According to testimony from those who watched it live, this was a crazy game in the kill screen. It allowed him to blow past the 1.4 million barrier, but only a select few were able to see it. And even though there's no recording, Joseph knew what he had done and had accomplished his goal. To this day, he's still never gotten a 1.4 on video. The following few months in 2020 were a strange time in Tetris history. Everyone knew the record was 1.4 million, but it technically wasn't official. It would still be a big deal the first time someone achieved 1.4 on video. That July, a player named Scotto Bozo tried using RNG manipulation to crush the world record. He was able to use a task to predict which pieces would come and plan ahead accordingly. However, his score of 1.5 million was quickly deemed to be a different category. So, the focus was back on trying to break 1.4, and while there were many new players getting into the game, one stood above the rest. His name was Dog Playing Tetris. In June 2020, he became the second person ever to achieve a score of 1.3 million. He was trying to get 1.4 million alongside Joseph, and while Joseph stopped playing after his unrecorded 1.4, Dog continued trying. He was perceived as the most likely person to pull it off. Dog was a hyper tapper like Joseph, so he had the ability to play for a while on the kill screen, and by that fall, his score was up past 1.35 million. He was closing in, and his next PB could be the one. In October, he managed to get a max out early in level 24. This was definitely on pace for 1.4 million, but the Tetrises kept coming, and by the time he hit the kill screen, his score was already at 1.367 million. He only needed 33,000 points on the kill screen. Dog Playing Tetris had to hold together. He missed it by 14,000. This was still a new high score, but not enough to break 1.4. Even months later, the world had yet to see a score over 1.4 million on video. The combination of getting to level 29 on a good pace, and then getting enough points on the kill screen, was just too much to ask. It almost mirrored the max out claims from decades prior. Even though a 1.4 million score had very likely happened, there was still no video of one for the world to see. It remained a nearly impossible score that existed only as a legend. Now, you might think this is all a build-up to someone finally breaking through, but that's not what happened. No, something much bigger was brewing in the background. While much of the community was focused on trying for 1.4 million, little did any of them know that Tetris was about to go through a revolution. Everything was about to change. For years, there had been two ways to play NES Tetris: DAS and hypertapping. DAS was certainly easier, but hypertapping had higher potential. That's how players were able to get points on the kill screen. Well, by 2020, the game's demographic at the top level had shifted younger, and virtually all of these new top players were hypertappers. In fact, during that year's Classic Tetris World Championship, all of the players in the top 8 were hypertappers. It had taken over at the top level. But as dominant as this technique was, it was quite difficult. Not many people could mash that fast while still retaining good control. It limited the number of record contenders, and those who could hypertap sometimes developed arm and hand issues. Hypertapping was powerful, but it was still far from an ideal technique.
Yo, what's going on, Icy? Welcome in, dude. Oh, I got poisoned.
Looking for alternative techniques to match the D-pad.
You crazy, bruh.
The leading theory was to try
You crazy,
using
bruh.
multiple fingers instead of just one. Gaming legend Flyheck had a method for using 8 fingers on an arcade button, letting him mash up to 30 times per second. He also had a modified method for the smaller buttons of an NES.
I'm grinding right now for the
However,
4th gym.
Tetris players had to mash the D-pad,
Poignantly.
and they struggled to adapt either of these methods. The D-pad seemed to simply be too small to use multiple fingers on. They needed a bigger button. That's where a player named Cheese found something brilliant. He watched Flyheck's
I'm probably not
videos
gonna
and
mess
a
with
mashing
toppings.
video from Silverboxer, then combined them into his own technique. If the NES D-pad was too small of a button, why not use the entire back of the controller as a button? By resting a finger on the D-pad, you can roll your fingers along the back to push the controller into it repeatedly. This allows you to rapidly press the D-pad up to 4 times, or 5 times with a thumb at the end. That's just enough to move any piece to the far left or right, and you can reach speeds upwards of 20 presses per second, twice as fast as hypertapping. It's also much easier on the hand and arm, and allowed for much more precision. As soon as Cheese found this technique, he knew it had the chance to break NES Tetris. He had just discovered Tetris's 3rd playstyle, rolling. While rolling clearly had the most potential of all 3 techniques, it was also quite tricky to learn. Even though Cheese had discovered rolling, he struggled to use it for the first few months, but he still had a head start over other players. And eventually, he started to get good with it. By early 2021, he was using it whenever he reached the kill screen, and it quickly became clear that he was able to do things that nobody else could. Cheese wasn't just playing on the kill screen, he was thriving. The best hypertappers could last a few levels on the kill screen, but with rolling, Cheese found himself making it all the way to level 40. And remember, the kill screen kicks in way back at level 29. Simply put, the kill screen had lost its meaning. It no longer marked the automatic end of your game, at least if you were able to roll like Cheese could. By mid-2021, Cheese had the potential to take the score record, and thanks to rolling, his strategy was much different than those who came before him. His emphasis was less on maximizing points before the kill screen, but rather going as deep as possible on the kill screen while landing Tetrises. This meant he wouldn't need such a crazy score going into level 29. If he could then last long enough on the kill screen, he could beat the score record anyway. That June, Cheese played games to qualify for the July monthly tournament. On June 30th, he got a game that reached 1 million points by level 26. This was roughly 200k behind the world record, but Cheese knew he could make up those points on the kill screen. He reached level 29 and immediately misdropped a J piece. This could be a death sentence for a hyper tapper, but for a roller, it was an easy recovery. From there, the gameplay just got crazier.
How was my bag full, bro? How? Seriously?
Smashed the world record. He had just cleared 80 lines on the kill screen and gotten 5 Tetrises in the process. These were worth about 40,000 points each, and were only realistic with rolling. For any top player who was still hyper tapping, this game eliminated all doubt. Rolling was the future of NES Tetris. So, throughout 2021, the game's best players all improved at rolling. Previously, 1.4 million was about the limit for the score record, but now, there was no telling how high it could go. Cheese had made it to level 37, but if someone could last even longer on the kill screen, or get more points before the kill screen, then they could beat the world record. The big question was, who would be the next person to do it? Well, Dog Playing Tetris was the winner of the most recent World Championships, while players Pixelandy and Huffaluffagus came in 2nd and 3rd place. Meanwhile, Cheese was still an active player, and he was the best at rolling. All 4 of these players were top contenders, and they each had a good chance at raising the score record. However, in a surprise to most of the community, a player named Hydrant Dude moved into 2nd place right behind Cheese. Hydrant Dude was more known for his contributions other than his gameplay. He'd made numerous ROM hacks of Tetris, and later published videos explaining the game's code and inner workings. Beyond that, he was also a good player, but not usually considered one of the absolute best in the world. But that changed when he posted a score of 1.445 million, because Hydrant Dude had developed one particularly important skill. He was really good at rolling. And that meant he could last a long time on the kill screen. Now just 16,000 points behind the record, Hydrant Dude pushed onward. And in September, he had a game that entered the kill screen at just over 1.1 million points. This pace was nothing too special, and he'd need more than 300,000 more points to break the record. But Hydrant Dude decided to take a different approach now. Instead of going for Tetrises, he was going to try to last as long as possible. He would have to survive for probably 15 or so levels if he wanted to accumulate 300,000 points. But like I said, Hydrant Dude was really good at rolling.
There you go. There's a 19 peep. Is that world record? Did I actually just...
2 years ago, Hydrant Dude believed 1.4 million would never happen. Now, he had just broken the world record with 1.464 million points, and he had survived all the way to level 44. At this point, it was seeming increasingly likely that 1.5 million was on the horizon. Although Hydrant Dude had survived so long on the kill screen, his pace entering it wasn't anything special. If he could score a few more points beforehand, 1.5 million could be a reality. Well, Hydrant Dude kept playing, and just a few days later, he got the pace he was looking for, 1.35 million entering the kill screen. This was nearly 250,000 ahead of the world record. After landing 3 Tetrises on the kill screen, and making it to level 41, Hydrant Dude finally topped out. But his score wasn't 1.5 million. It was 1.6 million. He had skipped straight over an F score and rolled the hexadecimal digit back to 0. This was the first ever rollover in NES Tetris history, and it was also a 160,000 point increase over the world record. Hydrant Dude had proven that he was no fluke. His Tetris skills were legit. But he also had some heavy competition. As more time passed, the top players got better and better at rolling, and by late 2021, HuffleLuffagus was making a run at the record. Huff was already a world-class hyper tapper, finishing second place in the 2020 World Championships. But once rolling became dominant, he made the switch in technique, and was able to nearly reach 1.4 million. Huff was notably a very conservative player on the kill screen. He played even safer than Hydrant Dude, rarely going for Tetrises and just trying to survive. In November 2021, Huff had a game that reached the kill screen at 1.15 million. This was nearly 200,000 behind the record and didn't seem to have much of a chance. But then he put his survival mode into full effect, and the level counter climbed higher and higher. Level 35, then 40, and then 45. Huff had only landed 2 Tetrises, but he was somehow closing in on the record. A couple minutes later, Huff reached level 50. This was the highest level anyone had ever reached in NES Tetris. Finally, on level 52, Huff topped out. His score, 1.676 million, a new world record for score, level, and points on the kill screen. His survival playstyle had worked to perfection, and it was unbelievable to watch. He lasted through 23 levels on the kill screen. Rolling had forever changed NES Tetris. Gone were the days of needing to squeeze out every point before the kill screen ended your game. Now, players could just survive longer to make up those points. How high could this score go? By late 2021, the Tetris community was thriving. This was the most active it had ever been, and there was lots of competition for the score record. Rolling had given players who couldn't hypertap a second chance. They too now had a chance to snag the world record. And even though the top score was 1.67 million, it was climbing so fast that it seemed like a 2 million point game wasn't far away. However, over the next few months, it became very hard to track what the game's true world record was, all because of a practice known as vaulting. See, Cheese had a habit of playing games, sometimes even getting a world record score, and then only telling certain friends about it. Sometimes he did eventually upload his scores, and other times he didn't. Cheese gave various reasons for doing this: to better space out YouTube uploads, to make memes with his friends, and sometimes just because he could. So, we don't have a perfectly accurate record timeline, but we do know bits and pieces of it. In late 2021, Cheese allegedly achieved a new record of 1.7 million and didn't upload the video. However, it's unclear if this was before or after Huff's 1.676 million game, and we don't know what Cheese's exact score was. That being said, Cheese didn't vault all of his scores. He was an amazing player, and sometimes he had to play live, like when he had to qualify for a tournament. Since this was a qualifier, Cheese was just going for a decent score, not anything crazy. Well, 9 minutes later, he entered the kill screen at just 1.075 million. A good qualifying score, sure, but this was the lowest score at this point compared to any world record in the last 10 years. So, if he wanted a record here, this game would have to go deep. Cheese needed to pull off a miracle on the kill screen. For the next 13 levels, it wasn't looking like a miracle, but Cheese was surviving. He wasn't landing any Tetrises, so he didn't get many points, but he also wasn't topping out. Then, suddenly, he misdropped in level 43, and things got ugly fast. His stack piled high, and it looked like this was the end. Cheese's score was at 1.3 million, a fantastic qualifying score. He hadn't hit any Tetrises on the kill screen, and he was way short of the world record. Nobody would blame Cheese for just topping out here and being satisfied. But instead, he did this.
Dang, mastery cover.
1.8. 1.9. Let's go! Oh my god, 2 million! This is insanity, honestly. I never expected to get this high of a score. GG. That's a good game. Best game I'll ever play.
Cheese went from 0 Tetrises and 1.3 million points to 11 Tetrises and 2.3 million points. This was the biggest world record increase in the game's history, and also the first time anyone had ever reached level 60. Just a legendary game. The community was shaken. This score was so far ahead of anyone else. It was hard to imagine playing for so long while also landing Tetris after Tetris.
How in the world does Bro still not have any water moves?
His craft. And over the next several months, Cheese's 2 million score stood alone. While others tried and did improve their scores, none were able to crack.
It's Bellbeam at 25. What? Oh, that's literally the next level. Okay. I was like, I know I didn't.
Once again. In January 2022, he set a new high score of 2.7 million. But unfortunately, this was another vaulted score. Video of the game has never been made public, and what little info we do have comes from the description of Cheese's 2.3 million game. Then, a few months later, Cheese got a score of 2.34 million points on video while qualifying for the April tournament. This eked out his highest reported
Seriously, I still can't one-shot this Binda.
2.7 million vaulted score. But no matter which of these 3 games you look at, Cheese was the premier player of NES Tetris. Nobody else could roll as long and as consistently as he could, and that's why he was the only player getting scores like this. But still, while they lagged behind Cheese, other players were improving their rolling skills. And with tournaments happening every month, there was active competition for the score record. One such competitor was Eric ICX. Eric was a good player, and he'd set some community milestones over the years. As a hyper tapper, he was the first person to reach levels 37 and 38. And while he was a good roller too, he lagged behind most other top players. His high score was just short of 1.5 million, and in 13th place overall.
I was like, I have no idea.
Well, on April 1st, 2022, Eric got a great game going. He entered the kill screen at 1.282 million points, a fantastic pace. Minutes later, he passed 1.5 million and broke his personal best. And then, Eric
we'll fix it.
What can only be described as a miracle run. He landed a Tetris on level 46, then another on level 58. In level 64, he'd been playing for so long that his camera shut off, and moments later, he broke Cheese's recorded world record of 2.34 million. This was unreal. Eric was great, but he was not expected to be a world record contender. He hadn't even gotten 1.5 million before. Now, his score was passing 2.4 million, with no signs of stopping anytime soon. By this point, another concept had come into play: scaling. As mentioned earlier, when you get a Tetris, the amount of points it's worth is determined by this formula. Basically, the higher the level, the more points you get. When Eric first entered the kill screen on level 29, his Tetrises were worth 36,000 points. But now entering level 70, any Tetris would be worth 84,000 points. And as the level climbed higher, these Tetrises became even more valuable. That's what scaling is. It's essentially the opposite of diminishing returns. The longer you play, the quicker your score rises. And that's exactly what happened to Eric. By the time he hit level 73, he had passed Cheese's vaulted score of 2.73 million. This game was now the undisputed world record, and it was still going. Eric passed level 80, and then level 90. In level 92, he managed to hit a Tetris worth over 112,000 points. Finally, in level 95, Eric topped out. His final score was 3.772 million. Eric had just broken the world record by over 1,000,000 points. He had more than doubled his own personal best, and he had achieved the game's first ever double rollover. The hexadecimal digit rolls over for a second time at 3.2 million. When he posted his score to Discord, many dismissed it as an April Fool's joke, but they quickly realized this was legit. The world record had been shattered, and Eric was the new champion. So, what did this mean for the Tetris community? Was the world record now unbeatable? Well, look, getting a game to level 95 like Eric did would be close to impossible.
For everybody, finally.
This game was such an outlier that even Tetris's
our team
couldn't make it
caught up to the
near
level
that
cap.
deep. Eric's score was a different story.
We are going
Still,
to.
Tetris's were worth 100 grand by the end of the game.
I'm gonna end the stream after we do Flannery.
70 or 80 again, and land a few more Tetrises than Eric, their score could shoot up past 3.7 million without having to make it as deep as level 95. It wasn't likely, but there was a path.
Dude, how many freaking encounters am I gonna get before I freaking get there? Seriously?
They worked on surviving on the kill screen for as long as possible. Even if they didn't need to make it to level 95, they still had to last a long time. But ultimately, nobody could do it, and Eric's legendary 3.7 million score stayed on top. But of course, the NES Tetris community is much bigger than this one world record. Tournaments have always been a big part of Tetris, and each month there was a Masters tournament featuring most of the game's top players. The majority of these tournaments aren't important for this video, but there's one match in the August 2022 edition that we need to take a look at. It was a battle between two titans, Huff, the former world record holder, and Eric, the current record holder, and they were going to compete head-to-head in a best of 5. Eric's 3.7 million score still stood as the world record, but Huff was the only player who would come close to him. His personal best of 3 million points was in second place. These were quite possibly the two best Tetris players in the world, trying to score as high as they could against.
Oh my! I just did the same mistake twice because I'm an idiot and I have no hippocampus,
these
dude.
guys came to play. They both made it to the kill screen before Huff finally topped out in level 41. Game 1.
This puzzle's stupid. Gym puzzles are dumb and stupid and dumb.
Of game 1. Both players were locked in and made it to the kill screen, but this time Huff had a slight lead over Eric, 1.1 million to 950k. They both survived to level 40, with Huff retaining his point lead. A few minutes later, both players arrived at level 50, and at this point, the game was entering rare territory. In the entire history of Tetris monthly tournaments, only 4 games had ever survived to level 50. The fact that this one had both players still alive was astounding.
Oh.
But Huff weren't done yet.
Wow.
A few levels later, they both rolled over the score. Huff still had a 100,000 point lead, but Eric wasn't backing down. As they both hit level 60, the game entered legendary status. This had become much more important than just a tournament match. Eric and Huff were so locked in that there was no telling.
No, dude!
They kept cruising through the 60s. But suddenly, on level 66,
I should have just gone out to Marshtown, dude. I don't know what I was thinking.
All the way to the
And of course I get paralyzed, dude.
He started his roll too late, and it was all over. Huff topped out after an incredible performance.
Dude, how many freaking heals do you have?
Eric now needed just 100,000 more points.
He keeps
to win
freaking
the game,
paralyzing my Pokemon, dude.
But he was already in rare territory. This chart shows all games that had made it to the kill screen.
It's also fighting type, which really freaking sucks because I have to take on Norman next. That would have been so nice to have.
Very rare, while making it to 50 was almost unheard of. The best tournament game ever made it to level 67. Huff had made it to level 66, just one level short. And yet, Huff ended up losing this game to Eric. Here's why. This is how far Eric ended up making it.
I should have released technical. Actually, that's a good water age I'm on, but whatever. Alright, well, let's put together our team for Norman. We won't really, probably,
Once he
and
broke the score record in level 105,
I know.
his nerves went away. At that point, he was playing with the house's money, and that's what ultimately allowed him to play another 40 levels without topping out. Meanwhile,
see if Norman has any dark type moves.
He simply looked on in astonishment as Eric completely destroyed the game in front of him. And at the end, he applauded Eric, said cheers, and sat back in his chair. People
yeah,
he has eventually get to this point.
So,
but Eric had rapidly accelerated that timeline.
We'll take the sunstone off of you real quick.
Last as long as possible on the kill screen. And while the best players have been able to survive for 10, even 15 minutes before, Eric had just survived for 28
I don't know, maybe
double
camera up
anyone
would be
else's
nice.
best performance.
Can I even get a camera
In case
up?
there was any doubt, this game had made it crystal clear. The days of needing to maximize your score early with Tetris
Evolves at level 33. No, I cannot. So no, that's not the.
Tetris was a game of survival.
Yeah, I could do
and endurance,
Swello maybe.
and nobody else could keep up with Eric.
Alright, well, we lost a couple good Mons to Flannery, which really sucks, but oh well. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Well, I could also consider Gyarados. Yeah, I might consider Gyarados too. We'll get it figured out. But I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. The next one of these streams, I'll probably get to like, I don't know, Nona maybe. Yes. Assuming we don't lose though, probably 2 more Emerald or 2 more Ruby and Sapphire streams, so we can move on to Diamond and Pearl. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Hope you guys have a great day.